The 24 Hours of Daytona has become a staple in sports car racing for more than half a century now. In that time, it has seen the technology of endurance racing evolve a great deal. So when we step back 30 years, these cars will be like little else our competitors have driven before. Let's see who can turn back the clock as we get ready to watch the Majors Classic Daytona 2.4, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. I am Joe Peak, and joining me in the booth is DJ Clark and Adam Lindgren. Behind the scenes is our director, Andrew Cardinale, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Daytona's road course looks simple on the surface, but getting down on the track itself shows you otherwise. Let's check it out with our track guide. Welcome to the Daytona International Speedway. While many oval fans associate this Central Florida track with mainly NASCAR, the road course has gained just as much worldwide fame thanks to it hosting motorcycles and sports cars for decades. In fact, the flagship road race, the 24 Hours of Daytona, has become a major draw for drivers of all disciplines, many eager to have a go at endurance racing. The stats make this place sound relatively simple, with 12 corners on the regular road circuit and 14 on the NASCAR version, both spread amongst 3.5 miles. Indeed, a majority of the lap is spent on the oval portion, where you fly along the notoriously steep banking. But it's easy to underestimate the challenge presented to the drivers. The infield portion begins with the scary kink entry of Turn 1. Not only is it the fastest part of the track, but the transition from the banking to the flat tends to upset the car as you slow it down. There's also the bus stop chicane on the backstretch. Added in the 80s, this is a tricky piece of circuit that punishes a poor exit severely, with it leading back into the latter half of the oval. As you'd expect, the long periods on throttle mean that drafting tends to play a factor in the racing. It also means passing isn't usually too great of an issue if you have the pace to catch someone. The more difficult thing is managing to gap your opponent so that they don't ride in your slipstream once you get by. With half a century of endurance racing collected among these walls, it's not unfair to say that road racers have just as much claim to call Daytona home. Fans who come to watch certainly won't be disappointed by the high speeds and fantastic thrills it invariably provides each year. Well, Adam, I have to say, having regularly seen the Daytona 2.4 here in the major schedule, getting it back to these old camel cars has me excited.
Absolutely, Joe. If you've never seen the Audi GTO and Nissan GTP interact in a multi-class scenario, you are in for a treat. With the Daytona Endurance Road Course playing host at the Classic 2.4 this year, their cars of choice are late 80s, early 90s IMSA machines native to iRacing's Camel GT series that we broadcast on Saturday afternoons here at GSRC, and these things are powerhouses. The Nissans will feel the most at home here today with the high banking and many fast turns, benefiting those that run as little downforce as possible, but still having enough to make a slingshot move around the outside of turn 1 if necessary. The Audis won't feel too bad here either, only struggling with the curved braking zone of turn 1 and the Le Mans chicane, formerly known as the bus stop, where its infamous understeer will make it quite the challenge to stay within the track limits of the reprofiled curves. Multiclass here shouldn't be an issue, but with 12 seconds of delta between the classes, the closing rates can catch all the drivers out regardless of class. The Nissans will need to be very careful approaching Turn 1, the Kink, and Le Mans, as the Audis, once committed to their line, cannot take evasive action if the Nissans attempt a dive bomb on them. We're expecting a draft fest full of fuel saving for the Audis and a straight up fight of a race for the Nissans tonight, Joe, and I, for one, anticipate a bit of carnage and hurt feelings along the way.
Yeah, from our time covering Camel, I'm kind of in the same boat there. Now, as we take a look at the championship, of course, we start with the pro class here, and Christian Challoner currently leads the way by a huge gap of 267 points, currently over his fellow Mega Racing team driver Tom Abramitis. Brenton Foster as well sits in third. Andrew Roy, the first driver not from that Mega Racing team, there sitting in fourth, is in quite the fight there with Brenton Foster. See if he can sneak within the top three. Justin Morton, watch out for him today because he has experience in these cars. And that could give him a very good leg up, but he's only 6 points ahead of Nathan Dowd right now. So his main focus probably finishing ahead of that driver, with Milwain, Hill, Schmeier, and Warling rounding out the rest of the pros. But Adam, what about the sportsman standings?
Yeah, it's a lot closer over there for the Sportsman Championship. You can watch that on our friends on LSR TV. David Gargaro Jr., 70 points ahead of Nathan Medina. If you don't understand how the point structure works in majors, that's pretty close. Andrew Koska, quite a bit back of that battle, but not that far ahead of Maurice Gamillion for the third position. So the bottom of the podium for Sportsman very tight between himself, Gamillion, and Richardson down in fifth position. Then it's a gap to Yatito, Nichols, Deloche, Homan, and Lotsridge, who are going to round out the top 10 of those standings.
And of
DJ,
course,
what do you got for the Legends going on?
In the Legends category, it's Kevin Hill leading the way by a relatively small margin compared to everything else that we've seen over Brian Barnes. Then it's going to be Wayne Hutchinson and Brian McGreevy rounding out the top four. Ray Partridge comes up in fifth place. William Fletcher is going to be in P6, and then Jimbo Pfeiffer followed by Brian Bennett, David Hegner, and Adam Plunkett to round out your top 10.
And then we have the Legends Sports category. This is those on the amateur side of that Legends category. Maurice Gamillion currently leading the way ahead of Deloche by a nice little gap there. You've got a nice fight between Paulson and Ludwig for that fourth position. And as well, you look at Shank and Redeker there between 6th and 7th. Not much to separate them. And one of the closest that we've got is between 9th and 10th, Gilbert and McClure. Only split by 3 points here with just this and one more round to go. So everything to fight for. But Adam, we also have the pro teams up next.
And the pro teams, Mega Racing Team has run away with it this year. They have not clinched it mathematically, but if they continue their excellent performances on track, we're going to see them win this championship in the next couple of rounds. Evolve Sim Sports and Forge Racer Pro, though, still locked in a tight battle for that second position, with Dog Bear Red not too far behind at this point. We got Udox Lola, Kinetic Racing Americas, Dog Bear Blue, Black Magic Motorsports, Forge PC Racer Pro 2, and Sector 5 PT rounding out the top 10.
And over in the sport team standings, it's Mad Sim Racing leading the way by, again, a relatively small gap there of 178 points. Forge PC Racer Sport in third place. And that really rounds out the top three. And from there back, we get a little bit farther. It's Udox Frank, a fair ways back. Howler Racing about 200 points back from them. Then it's Dog Bear White, followed by High Class Racing, Evolved Sim Sports in a very, very close battle for P8 with Sector 5 Racing, only about 2 points separating those two. And Forge PC Racer Sport 2, also not too far behind them.
Indeed, and that takes us to the race details, of course, and it is the penultimate round, if I can get that word out, of the season. 2 hours and 25 minutes, 145-minute race that they're going to be running here. And as was mentioned, it's the Nissan GTP ZX Turbo and the Audi 90 GTO, the two classes that are going to be racing out here. Open setup, and that could be a bit of a talking point depending on who tries to get the most top speed out of these cars. 40 incident limit. Now, that might sound like a lot, but as Adam talked about, it's easy to get into trouble with these cars. So you could see those drivers wind up making a few more car contacts than they anticipated, just not being used to the speed difference between these things. They do have a spare car in case they wind up with some damage and have to duck in to try and take care of that. As always, we have a charity for the majors, and today it is Forever Footprints. For 18 years, Forever Footprints has served families who have suffered pregnancy and infant loss. Upon the death of her son, Joseph Thomas, in 2004, founder Kristen Von Rotz saw the need for support, education, and remembrance for grieving families. Medical professionals lack the education and resources to adequately care for the emotional needs of families who had experienced miscarriage, stillbirth, SIDS, pregnancy loss, or infant death. What began as a small remembrance walk in 2005 with 100 participants has since evolved into a multifaceted nonprofit organization that has served families throughout Southern California and around the world. Thanks to the work of many passionate families, sponsors, employees, volunteers, and supporters, the organization provides direct services educates the medical community to improve quality of care and response, and offers opportunities for remembrance to help families find their own path to healing. Find out more with our link in the description below. Also, make sure to check out the Majors Garage, home of free Baseline Plus setups. Get help from any of the garage coaches 24/7. Sign up now for awesome, affordable monthly subscriptions, telemetry, coaching, and more simply by clicking our link in the description below. And also, if you use our special discount code MajorsGSRC, you'll get 10% off. Looks like they have finished the warm up and they are getting ready to grid up. So let's go through that starting grid here today with the GTPs up first. Christian Challoner has the pole position with Travis Warling starting outside of him. Lyndon Swaby will be in at P3 as Justin Kirby starts from fourth. Then you've got Vincent Herbier in the fifth position, followed by Daniel Johnson and Brent Kirby. Nick Kuhn will be on the outside of row 4 as Brandon Fick will start from ninth. Rob Powers will be P10 at the drop of the green. On the next slide, it'll be Lynn Kinchlow starting from 11th and Jimbo Pfeiffer in 12th, and it'll be Jason Wall at 13th. And the last of our 14-car GTP field will be William Fletcher here. Adam?
Yeah, then we got Nathan Dowd, who's going to start off on the pole position for the GTOs, with Brian Bennett starting off in P2. Justin Morton's going to line up in P3 next to Ozzie Milwane in P4. Tom Abramitis in P5, with Wayne Hutchison lining up P6. Then we got P7 with Joey Haynes, Jeff Schmeier P8, and Brenton Foster P9. And then we've got Brian Halleck in P10, with Ray Partridge lining up in P11, Brian McGreevy P12, Ryan Steele in P13, Brian Barnes in P14, and it looks like Andrew Waring did not make it to the grid, so that is going to be an interesting development for his points championship.
Oof, that's not the way you wanted to start this one off, but I guess if you're going to have a race where that happens, this is one where he can try and come back at it. We'll see if Andrew can try and fight his way through the field, if he can get signed up in time here and get out onto the track as we ride behind the Porsche pace car. We are getting ready to go for 2.5 hours of racing here in classic IMSA machinery that definitely require a bit of a specialist touch and knowledge out there to get the best out of them and to be able to survive what is the chaos that is Camel GT style racing here on iRacing. Porsche pace car getting ready to let go of Christian Challoner. He has control of the field as they come around the tri-oval, and the green flag is out as they come down into the first corner. This can often be a mess sometimes for these drivers. Let's see how they handle it heading into that left-hander off of the banking. Front few are looking pretty spaced out, the rest of them side by side, but they make it. Adam, let's head to the GTOs.
Brian Bennett got to jump over Nathan Dowd, who seemed to have a misshift going on to the start. I think he was still in first gear, hit the rev limiter, and had to shift down into second. But fortunately, Brian Bennett still going. Ozzie Milwane tucked in behind, improving from fourth position, but it's fairly clean on back in the GTOs.
They send it into the International Horseshoe. Still a little bit of side-by-side towards the back of the field, but the front definitely getting themselves single file. This is about some of the calmest racing, ironically, DJ, that they're going to be seeing all race probably.
Yeah, indeed, Joe. When they come up to the rest of the pack here, this is going to get very, very crazy. The speed differences that Adam talked about are really going to set these cars apart, and we're going to see some very frenetic passing between these GTPs and the GTOs.
As they head towards the braking here of the bus stop for the first time, it looks like Challoner's got a healthy lead over Warling, and then they're gapping Lyndon Swaby behind them by about 1.5 seconds already. And most everybody is getting through the Le Mans chicane successfully there in the GTPs. Let's look at the GTOs as Bennett starts to approach.
Absolutely. Bennett in a really good position over Ozzie Milwane. Nathan Dowd tucked in behind him. Justin Morton tried to think about a move, but Dowd is actually the one who has the advantage on Milwane for P2. He's going to look to the outside going down this back, going through turns 3 and 4 of the NASCAR track. And I mean, I'm thinking these guys are going to start saving fuel. I can see that happening with Justin Morton in P4, but they've already broken away from most of the rest of the field. It's 0.8 seconds back to Wayne Hutchison.
And Milwane does not seem interested in passing for now. He had a big lift and they're switching to the outside. Bennett maybe even trying to open up the door for him and wants to let him through. Breaks early, and Milwain is now your leader, whether he wants to or not.
Yeah, it looks like that's what it's going to be, and that could be a little bit of fuel saving that these drivers are going to be doing around here, Joe. That is a strategy that we do think is going to be employed here. It's going to be tight on a 2-stop window, but we'll have to see.
Going well into the night here with the sun setting. Off into the grass there as Brian Bennett. Did he get help from Nathan Dowd? That was strange.
Absolutely he did. A mischief from Bennett sent Dowd into the grass because Nathan Dowd did not expect that mischief to happen. Nathan now struggling with the gearbox. We've heard a lot of chatter in the Majors Discord about the Audi drivers really struggling with the gearbox in this machine. It is tricky, but there are tactics to get it to work for you. But I'm expecting to see a lot of folks have a little bit of, a box full of neutrals today.
Yeah, even the drivers who've raced this car for years still suffer from missing those shifts from time to time. So I wouldn't doubt that we'll see a few of them fall victim to that here today, as this is for 9th in class in the prototypes. Kirby's being attacked by Kinchlow right now for that position as they come down into turn 1 here, and good braking from Rob Powers behind.
Yeah, good braking by everybody. I'm really surprised here at this point, Joe, that we haven't seen a big coming together down into that first corner. But it looks like here that there's a little bit of movement getting knocked off a little bit. Is the number 47 of Rob Powers. Looks like he got sent offline going down into the International Horseshoe. That's going to leave the door open there for Jason Wallet to maybe get a move done.
Sticks with it as they come down into the braking of the Western Horseshoe now. And it sounds like Bennett has now gotten the lead back from Milwain. And Milwain slides a little bit wide coming through that little chicane out of turn 1 down to the International Horseshoe, but he at least retains 3rd place as Dowd sneaks through.
Yeah, the front 3 of Bennett and Dowd and Martin coming into turn 1 were all running line astern, and Nathan Dowd decided that he wanted to try and lead this race, so he took it up the outside, which actually caused a little bit of chaos from everybody. But my goodness, I'm seeing a lot of forward brake bias on these Audis. They're sliding the rear tires quite a bit right now. We have a car off. That's Brenton Foster.
Just outbraked himself down into the Western Horseshoe. Thankfully didn't run it into the wall, but he's going to return in what looks like last place of that class for the time being. That's another one of our Mega Racing Team drivers, apparently having a little bit of a harder time trying to adapt to this machinery. And when are we going to see them start to catch up? That's the other question here, because I got to think they're going to be catching them relatively soon. Yeah, I think about 3 more laps, and our GTPs are going to be right on top of them as we once again come back to that battle between Kirby leading Kinchlow and Powers.
Yeah, and it looks like here that Kinchlow is going to be able to keep ahead for now, diving down into the International Horseshoe. A little bit of a close up there, and I've got to say, Brent Kirby is not completely free from this battle as well. He's only about 0.6 of a second up the road from them. But we watch here as Powers just gets a nice little draft there going through the kink. Very difficult to get a pass done going through the Western Horseshoe here. I think this is a lot of just setting things up. Big slide there from Kinchlow.
Catches it, but he loses some time as Rob Powers closes in behind him. He could get a nice little slipstream here coming along the banking. He's not going to at that rate as he slides up the track. Thankfully, everybody misses him, but apparently the turbo has been a bit another of our drivers here in Rob Powers.
Absolutely. If you're not used to it, when you get on the power with this GTP, the turbo will spool up. It spools up pretty quickly now. They adjusted that from the old spec where it used to spool up very slowly, but still, this is a turbo-powered car with a non-adaptive suspension. This thing really gets going on you if you're not careful, and especially that hard left turn onto the banking with all the bumps, the wheels can start spinning on you without expectation.
You can see Jason Wallet here getting close to Jimbo Pfeiffer. This is for 11th position. He's going to use that slingshot to come up around the outside, but the job is not done yet. They head towards turn 1. Let's see whether or not Wallet can finish it up here. He's much deeper on the brakes coming down into the corner, and that is going to be Jason Wallet into 11th.
Yeah, good clean pass there from Wallet. He's going to be happy with that, but he's got a lot of work to do to catch back up on Kinchlow. But we take back a look here at the lead of the GTO field right now as Bennett continues to lead, but Dowd, I think, in that 147, have to see. He's got the run. Does he want it? He pokes his nose out like he does, but I think he's lifting a little bit.
And I'm keeping my eyes, DJ, back on Tom Abramitis in 5th position, the white car that's just at the top of your screen there. He's actually 1.6 seconds back. He has lost the draft of these front 4. He's going to have to hope that they get into more tussles like this one we're seeing in order for him to catch back up.
Dowd goes around the outside, tries to cut down, and it looks like he can get it done. So that's Dowd to the lead. Ooh, big wheel spin there from Ozzie Milwane, though, as he tries to get the throttle down, and the car does not like it. Bennett retains second amongst them.
Yes, he does. And now as they bring their way out of the International Horseshoe, you can see a little bit of a different line there being taken by Dowd, just trying to run that car as wide as possible through that part of the track. I think that's a good line for him. Oh, now here comes a little bit of a look. That's going to be Ozzie Milwane thinking about a little bit of ascent there into the Western Horseshoe. Not going to play itself out. Here they come. They're all going to be back in single file order.
And watch out for Justin Morton, just behind Milwane, who we ride on board with, because remember, Justin has a number of years' experience with these cars, so he probably will have a little bit more of an idea of what to expect when it comes to dealing with the traffic, and that could give him that edge. In fact, right now, it certainly seems to be using that slipstream to good effect as we go around the outside for the lead. Brian Bennett gets a nice run on Nathan Dowd. Dowd lifts as they break into the Le Mans chicane, and he is going to allow them through. So Brian Bennett, once again, your leader.
And Joe, this kind of swapping is gaining them a lot of lap time, but it's also not going to benefit them as far as the fuel saving is concerned. Justin Morton is the one who's doing the most fuel saving right now, just hanging on to the back of this group. Tom Abramitis, though, because of all this battling that's going on up ahead, has gained 3/10 on this group. So he's definitely clawing his way back towards these top 4 drivers, and that's going to benefit him when it comes to fuel strategy. But look at this, Milwane looking for a pass.
Gets down to the inside of it looks like not Justin Morton, Nathan Dowd, rather, and he is going to sneak through on that one. That has definitely allowed Abramitis to catch up to them. But I do believe, I think this lap is when they're going to start to see Christian Challoner catch up to the tail of this GTO field. He's broken away from Travis Warling by about 2 seconds, but he's probably going to need those 2 seconds when he catches the back of him as we ride on board now with Christian.
Yeah, this is him coming through the International Horseshoe here, and you can see just how tricky that is. A little bit of counter steer being put into the car, and this is where the high percentage moves that you're going to want to take, Joe. This is where your head has got to be on a swivel. Both if you are Christian Challoner or if you are one of the GTO drivers in front of you, you've got to be very, very careful not to be able to run into any problems, and you've got to have a lot of trust in the drivers around you.
That's Ray Partridge, who's going to be first on his list, and he is battling for position. Ryan Steele, Brian Barnes, Brian McGreevy are all in a buffet in front of him as we ride on board now with Ray Partridge. We're pretty soon going to see Challoner absolutely fly by, and this, honestly, along the banking will really show us the difference in speed between these cars.
Yeah, looking out the back, you see Christian Challoner a little speck in the distance, and just like that, he's screaming up to the back of you. And it's really easy to miss that if you're not careful in the Audis, keeping your eyes on the rearview mirror. I'm not sure whether McGreevy and Barnes realize it as they're trying to duke it out for 13th position. Christian Challoner up to the high side. He's going to sneak on by. Looks like everyone was aware of it at this point.
Yep, thankfully caught them at a good spot there along the banking, where he's got plenty of space and time for them to watch out. But now he's going to catch up to the midfield in the as things are getting hot there amongst the back.
Oh!
That was Foster, in fact, he's gone to the other side of the track. I think he's able to get it turned back around, thankfully, but he goes to the back of that GTO field.
Major left front damage on that machine, DJ.
Yeah, big time there, and you saw as we rode on board there, I think there's some suspension damage as well. Look at just how much understeer he's picking up coming through the International Horseshoe. That may have been a little bit to let one of those cars by, but yeah, he's going to park that thing.
Or at least get well out of the way, it looks like, trying not to become an issue. I can tell you that Christian Challoner is amongst the mid-pack that is battling between Halleck, Schmeier, and Haynes there, and he's going to get through them through the infields, finally now on by, but has to catch up to our GTO leaders now, which is the next group up.
Yeah, he's actually caught this these Audis at really good times. He's been fortunate that he's caught the Audis on exit of most of these challenging sections, and he'll do it again here on the exit of the bus stop. And he does sneak by, but Travis Worling, not so lucky.
Yeah, that really showed you how much they gain under braking, all the downforce that they have in these GTPs, as he was right up to the gearbox and thankfully did not get into the back of that GTO driver. Bennett still leads, but Christian Challenger just went by him, so now they got Travis Worling approaching. Is that going to be an issue as they head into the infield section?
Well, Joe, these guys have been able to keep everything relatively clean here for the GTO lead, but I've got to think as Worling comes up on him, he is going to catch them right at the inopportune time here, coming down into the International Horseshoe. That's going to be getting around Tom Abramitis. It looks like this is going to get a little hairy.
Yeah, he's getting slowed up a ton here, trying to take that inside line through the International Horseshoe. Will separate Morton from that group. And Adam, you and I have seen this countless times. When the GTP traffic comes through the GTO drivers, it tends to separate things.
Absolutely, and especially at this track, if you get separated from the draft pack up ahead, you're in big trouble. You lose a good 10 miles an hour down the straightaways, and that's going to lose you about a quarter of a second per lap. So Nathan Dowd, Justin Morton have to work really hard to stay right on the back of Worling right now, and they did successfully as they came out of those corners. But a nice battle for sixth position in the GTOs between Halleck and Wayne Hutchison, and they've trapped one of the GTPs, and he's trying to get around, can't find a way.
Oh, yeah, that just did not work out well. I think that was Vincent Laherbier, who sits fifth in the GTPs, eventually gets through. Thankfully played patient right there. Hutchison on the outside, Halleck down to the inside as they stay wheel to wheel coming to the Le Mans chicane, and finally Wayne's going to give up the ghost.
Yeah, and I think that's a probably good life preservation idea there for Wayne Hutchison. Now, whoa, you can see that speed out of Brandon Fick here coming out of the corner, just absolutely blasting by these GTOs in the 777 here, and that really gives you a good idea of just the speed differential that we're working with.
Yeah, I mean, they're already a speck in the distance there from the gearbox cam. From Fick. Meanwhile, are we going to go three wide coming into the first turn? No, looks like it's going to be Noah's Ark instead. And up at the front of them, Brian Halleck deep on the brakes, even deeper and way too deep, unfortunately, for the likes of Wayne Hutchison. He's going to lose all those spots.
And while this is really, really fun, these guys have got to be thinking about the rest of this race. We're only 15 minutes into this thing. Some of the predictions for our pit strategy are that some of these drivers are going to want to carry these tires all the way to the end of the race. Based upon how they're racing now, I don't see how that's possible. But I don't know see how it's possible Daniel Johnson's going to get by either.
Yeah, Joey Haynes kind of in the way there, and Daniel Johnson eventually found a way past outside of the kink there, and then goes around the long way to get past Brian Halleck. They go single file once again, and it hasn't seemed to have separated this mid-pack battle, although looks like a fight in the GTPs is now coming through. That could change the dynamic. That's Nick Kuhn and Brent Kirby, but Brent Kirby is held up in that black and blue Nissan.
Yeah, that was a big, big check up there for Kirby. He's still going to be able to get around the majority of these GTOs. That's going to get a little bit hairy coming there off of NASCAR too. Able to make it work though, and so he's going to be able to be on through it. That is just the kind of hair-raising stuff that you've got to be ready for here in this multi-class field.
Joey Haynes just blew the bus stop, Joe. Absolutely blew it wide open, took it too deep in and couldn't turn his GTO. He's going to lose a good 15 miles an hour down this straight, and he's got to hope he stays attached to those GTOs ahead of him. Otherwise, he's going to lose a lot more time than that.
Yeah, thankfully, it looks like he didn't get a cut course penalty in that, though. Just went way too hot into it. And yeah, he's held on to the back of Wayne Hutchison. So looks like he'll be okay for now. Looks like we got a replay of Joey Haynes having his trouble here.
Yeah, just too deep into the corner. Clips. He just gets too straight heading into the bus stop, and that's exactly what happens to you. He saved it from being a problem, but looks like we've possibly had a wreck on the track now. Jason Wallett's around and in a very weird spot.
I wonder if he got help on this one. Yes, he did, actually. We'll want to replay. This is with the 28 of Fletcher that they came together. And here we go. Coming down out of turn one. Is Jason maybe just a little slow off the corner? Because Fletcher now suddenly side by side. And as we saw before, going too wide through this little chicane doesn't work out well.
No, it certainly doesn't there, and just a little bit of miscommunication. Two drivers trying to fight for the same piece of real estate, unfortunately. And yeah, Joe, I think to your point, I think what happened there is he just kind of called that corner wrong a little bit. I think he went into there just a little bit offline, didn't necessarily recognize where it was going to be coming down into the braking zone. That turn one corner is so hard to get stopped for, and that's what set up this coming together.
It looks like Jason just took the racing line, didn't realize that Fletcher was there, came across his nose, and ended up paying for it.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, as he had full right to be there. He had the overlap and just wound up going south if you're Jason Wallet. Meanwhile, looks like the GTO lead has Bennett ahead of Mill Wayne, but not by a lot. They're trying to catch back up to Nathan Dowd, who seems to have pulled a gap with all this traffic coming through.
That's a good move there from Dowd to try and separate himself from the guys behind. The trouble is he was not going to be able to save any fuel that way. They got Lynn Kinchlow. He's got Lynn Kinchlow up the inside of him. That's going to take away the apex. And this has brought Tom Abramitis right back into the fray. Tom used to be a second and a half off of these guys. Oh, the mischief from Brian Bennett. He goes to the grass to try and avoid making any contact. Good sportsmanship from him, but that's going to drop him behind Tom.
Lost a ton of time right there. I think he'll still be within the slipstream of this group, it appears. Yeah, Nathan Dowd has an even better advantage now. So looks like he will be able to sleep comfortably. Well, not sleep. You could practically sleep on this banking, but rest comfortably here in that 147, at least for another lap. Wow, great exit, though, from Justin Morton as he closes in on Mill Wayne, but we're starting to see more evidence that he has no interest in running at the front of a group. He just lifts and waits behind that green number 14.
Yeah, it looks like J-Mo here's really trying to play the long game a little bit, Joe. I think he may be trying to save a little bit of fuel, save a lot of bit of fuel, potentially, just trying to see what he is able to do. Watch for this number 9 car to really come alive later on in the race, if this is the strategy that he's choosing to pull, because he's not only saving tires here, but I've been watching him. He's been very, very cautious coming in and out of corners. He's also saving fuel, or he's also saving tires, to Adam's point about thinking about drivers not making a change over the course of this run.
Yeah, smooth is fast, DJ, especially in the Audi. This thing, you can drive it like wild, but in a 2 hour 25-minute race, you want to be a little bit more cautious in those opening stints. We'll see Justin Morton unleash this thing in the final stint if he has to, but up at this point, he's just along for the ride.
Well, just about to the 2 hour to go mark, which is still a long ways in this race, as we jump back to the battle between Halleck, Haynes, Schmeier, and Hutchison. This is all for 6th in class for the GTOs.
And here as they work their way around, a little bit of a look to the inside there. We're going to ride on board here, having a popcorn position of this battle as we keep our eyes on it. Jeff Schmeier trying to see what he's able to do. Joey Haynes starting to search around a little bit, trying to find that area. Got to give credit there to Schmeier. He was really able to close up there in the Western Horseshoe. Maybe thinking about a run here as they come through turn 8.
Back onto the banking once again. Got to get that power down, and Halleck seems to do so with ease. He pulls away from Joey Haynes, but he's going to get sucked right back in by that slipstream here. So those of you wondering about the pit stops that we keep alluding to, expect it's going to be probably another half an hour before we get to the first stops for the GTOs. Maybe a little bit earlier than that for the GTPs. Great run from Haynes and Halleck. Whoa!
Oh!
Second time he's had trouble now with Le Mans.
But we got to go to P2 because Ozzie Milwayne, Justin Morton, Brian Bennett, and Tom Abramitis are Noah's Arking it because Nathan Dowd got away. So Justin Morton trying to get past Ozzie Milwayne to try and regain a little bit of that time. Milwayne, though, not interested. He's going to challenge Morton into turn 1 and outbrake him.
Oh, I don't know about that. I think he's going to outbrake himself. Milwayne way off into the paved runoff. Gets it back onto the course, thankfully, but drops down to the back behind Abramitis and into 5th as we once again go back to that battle happening for the 6th position. Halleck ahead of Schmeier, ahead of Hutchison. I think they thoroughly dropped Haynes this time.
Yeah, I think they have at this point. Haynes is way far off the back. He's going to have to try to work his way up a little bit more, but here they go, working their way now through the kink. This is Halleck leading Schmeier, leading Hutchison. Let's see if, again, Hutchison's able to gain up a little bit under braking. Looks like he is.
Sticking with it, trying to make sure he keeps the pressure on Schmeier here. We've already seen how easy it is to make mistakes in these cars. Gets right up to the rear bumper of that number 30, but a great exit from Jeff Schmeier keeps him at arm's length. I think one thing many of these guys maybe aren't used to, Adam, is there's a long braking distance in most corners for this Audi.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to brake at about the 250 meter mark for this chicane that we just go through. And that's, I mean, you can get away with braking at the 200 meter mark, but you're going to put a lot of pressure into those tires. So if you want to be nice and calm, you'll lift at 250, brake at 200. And that's a lot deeper than most people are used to, even in GTs these days. Most GTs are braking at the 1.2, 1.5. So, oh, here we go. Pass on Justin Morton. Justin's just trying to catch up to the back of Nathan Dowd. And the rest of these guys, yeah, they want to fight.
Yeah, I'm not seeing much in the way of cooperation out there as Morton's got the inside down into the first corner. Looks like Bennett has to give it up. So Morton stays in second place. Abramitis watching from behind them, and Mill Wayne still in the mix, even though he'd lost some positions a couple laps ago. Maybe he's decided to calm this one down and just kind of sit and wait behind as we ride on board with Brian Bennett currently.
Riding on board here as he works his way through, and that, as you see there through that front windshield, is something else we're going to have to start to consider here. Dale Johnson around. Oh, big contact.
Yeah, that nose is completely gone. I think he must have hit the wall coming out of the Le Mans chicane. And indeed he did. If we get the replay here, yeah, looks like we got this spooled up.
Yeah.
Single car incident, Adam, but easy to do.
Very easy to do. He actually got it right on the edge of grip coming through the right-handers here, and then he hits a bump, and the thing takes off on him. That one would have hurt. That one would have hurt a lot.
Early pit stop, so he's going to have to take the spare car, no doubt. There's no way he's going to try and keep that car rolling. We're going to watch it one more time with the onboard here. I think this is through NASCAR 2 and onto the back stretch. Yes, indeed. So here comes the bus stop chicane. And let's watch the hands, because it looked like he lost it a little late in the corner.
He's right on the edge of grip. Tries to turn it. Nothing happens.
Well, he stayed calm. That wasn't a whole lot of counter steer cranked into it. But unfortunately, that calmness did not save the car. He's back into pit lane as we check in with Christian Challoner. Once again, 7.5 seconds now ahead of Travis Warling.
Yeah, he's doing a good job here, and he'll be able to, looks like, start to piece his way back through the GTO field once again. Looks like he's coming up behind a few of those GTOs here at this point, so that's going to be another thing that Christian's going to have to deal with. But frankly, as we've seen him work his way through the field once, it didn't hurt him last time. I don't anticipate it hurting him again.
Through the International Horseshoe, you can see they've got a bit of a battle for the GTOs. This is 9th, 10th, and 11th right now. And that is Lyndon Swaby, who sits in third in the GTP class. It's just trying to get by and not interrupt them. Gonna unfortunately cause an altered line for McGreevy, but doesn't lose too much to Steele and Barnes behind him. And these guys will be able to continue on their merry way. I think we just, did Morton just overtake Dowd? He did.
Yes. That was a insane move. A good braking job up the inside into the bus stop, starting to Le Mans. But Nathan Dowd is now going to fall in behind Justin and play Justin's game. And there goes Christian Challoner streaking by our GTO leader. That's the second time through of probably 10.
And I think this started essentially when Bennett was bump drafting with J-Mo. So he helped him get back up there, and once he did, he pulled the slipstream and decided, all right, that's enough fuel saving for today. Let's get up to the front.
He might not have he did have a choice. So, yeah, I mean, he just used that slingshot and just took the speed and went with it. I think he's trying to get away from some of the drivers behind, especially maybe drivers like Tom Abramitis, to try and pull away from those mega team racing drivers. Because remember, Dog Bear is in the fight for the championship, team's championship title, and they want to try and duke it out for that second position.
Still very close down through the infield now. Morton leading Dowd, leading Bennett. Abramitis has really got to get back on things. He's starting to drop off. So is Ozzie Milwayne behind them. But in the past, they've been able to catch back up. We'll see if this isn't that dire of a situation as we jump a little farther back once again. The battle between Halleck, Schmeier, and Hutchison. That's Daniel Johnson, who's got his spare car and is back out, but is now off sequence.
Yeah, it's a little bit off sequence here, and that's going to hurt him, but we're going to have to see how that plays out. We do anticipate it's going to be a little bit close. I think he's going to probably find that hurting him. I think he's basically going to have to go back on sequence here. We said 2 pit stops were going to be a little bit tight. If we do indeed see this being a 3-stop race, that's going to play into his favor, Joe.
So Halleck now using that to great effect. He split Schmeier and Hutchison away from him by quite a margin with that lap traffic coming through. As you can now see riding on board. We hop on with Schmeier looking at Hutchison, and up approaches Vincent Leherbier. Now going to go up to the high side, be able to find his way around quite easily. But Schmeier is catching back up. Meanwhile, GTO lead once again. This has been changing hands multiple times already this race, and now it's Bennett's turn at the top.
Absolutely. And realistically, Joe, I'm seeing about 4 different races going on right now. We've got the GTO's battle for the lead with the 5 cars that we're watching. We got the battle for 6 with Halleck, Schmeier, and Hutchison. We got Brian McGreevy down there in 9th position trying to hold off Brian Barnes, Ryan Steele, and Joey Haynes. And then we've got the GTPs, who are all kind of on their own, with the exception of Vincent Leherbier and Brandon Fick, who are tucked together for a battle for 5th.
You see them on screen right now. Haven't talked a whole lot about this mid-pack in the prototypes. It's definitely not been as frantic as we've seen as the GTOs. They're not known, DJ, for offering nearly as much of a slipstream, even though they can feel the effects here at Daytona. So I wonder if that's why we're seeing so much separation.
Yeah, this is really a finesse car to drive, Joe. You know, with the Audi, you've got to be a little bit more aggressive with it. It's a kind of a guttural car that you've got to throw into the corners, and you've got to be careful with the shifts, obviously, but you've got to chuck it around. With these prototypes, you've got to really drive it with a fine touch, and so sometimes that does lead to a little bit more of this separation up at the top of the field. And now, even as we watch this battle, it's starting to phase itself out here a little bit as Leherbier is able to grow the gap about 1.3 seconds, and any gap or any draft that Fick would be feeling pretty much negligible.
Wow, look at Tom Abramitis coming up on the back of this pack. He is overspeeding this group by 10 miles an hour right now, and I think he might. Oh, he backed out. I thought he might take an opportunity on Dowd, but my goodness, that was some really high speeds he was gaining at.
Love the onboards that Dougie gives us here in these cars. Really captures kind of the old school feel in the Audi and the Nissan. So we ride with Tom Abramitis. I thought that they were going to be able to break away from Milwayne because it was about 1.2 seconds, but it looks like in the infield, Ozzie is actually kind of catching up.
Yeah, it does look like it. Now, the question's going to be is they have, I believe that's Daniel B. Johnson working his way back through this field right now. Is that going to separate them at all? It looks like Daniel's doing a pretty good job, and that's also Vincent Leherbier coming through as well. It looks like they're doing a pretty good job of running sort of off to the side. There you're going to see a little bit of slotting in there from Daniel in that number 0, 2, 3. But now as they work their way back up onto the banking, I expect those GTPs to be able to move up to the high side, use their more horsepower, and keep themselves going.
Yep, they get out of the way and leave them be. So looks like Bennett's given a tow to Morton. Is Morton going to be able to catch up enough that he tries for the lead once again? No, he will lift as they come into Le Mans. This is going to allow Brandon Fick to play something of a buffer between third and second here. Nathan Dowd, unfortunately, having to wait patiently, and now as they come back into NASCAR 3, once again, another big tow for J-Mo.
Yeah, and I'll say this, Joe, the Nissans definitely did not leave the Audis alone. They split up this battle. What was 4 cars, nose to tail, is now 2 cars nose to tail, with a car behind in the draft and a car behind not in the draft. So that's just the penalty of what having a group of Nissans coming through the pack does. JMO deciding he doesn't want to make a move on Brian Bennett. He wants to save some fuel. That's going to allow the rest of the cars behind to catch back up.
Well, coming down into the infield once again. As you can see, top 3 back together. Abramitis trying to see if he can reel them back in. Also think we have a pass going on for 9th in the GTPs. This is Kinchlow versus Kirby, almost banging doors. Kirby comes out ahead.
Whoa, and a very, very squirrely moment there for the 44, touching a little bit of the grass. Kinchlow almost losing it there for the UDOX driver. Very, very lucky to keep that going down to the International Horseshoe.
Ooh, some fierce stuff here between our prototype drivers, just showing you can get your elbows out in these things as well. So the 44 down into the Western Horseshoe now. He had caught up to the back of Kirby, was trying to go on the attack and just couldn't quite seal the deal. This looks like we might have a little bit of a battle brewing in front of them. Kuhn versus Pfeiffer. This is for 7th and the prototypes. Riding on board now with Jimbo. Looking up forward. You can see it's just about past sunset. In fact, I think it is past sunset at this stage potentially. It's already, looks like close to 6 p.m. virtual standard time, but it's set in January as the race traditionally is here for the 24. So early, relatively early sunset in the winter, even down in Florida.
Well, we're going back to the GTO lead, but I can let you know why Jimbo Pfeiffer was catching up to Nick Kuhn. According to timing and scoring, he did a 46-second lap. So
interesting. So
not possible, but a cool idea.
Oh. I thought you meant like a 146. I was like,
no, I saw 46.
Yeah, it's like that's a pretty slow lap for the GTPs, but look at this. Coming down into turn 1, that's McGreevy in the gray with Joey Haynes in the green and black just behind him, and Steele in the number 12. Big look to the inside down the International Horseshoe, but the door is shut by Brian.
Yeah, the door is shut, and he is not going to be able to get on through there, it looks like, as they now continue to work their way. But the 33 going to try to see if there's anything to be had. Joey Haynes looking a little bit off there through the kink. You can't take that completely flat out if you are in these GTPs. You got to have a little bit of or these GTOs rather, got to have a little bit of a lift there to make sure it goes right. But now he's able to gain it back up into the internet and through the Western Horseshoe. Here he comes, but they've got a little bit of GTP traffic rather to deal with as they get onto the banking.
Yep, so as they watch out for that car going up to the high side, that's Wallet, sitting 13th in class. He clears him. Still looks like Haynes got a shot at things if he wants to be aggressive. Let's see if he tries to force it wheel to wheel as we switch a little bit farther ahead. And I can tell you that Haynes did not. We're back to Bennett, Morton, and Dowd once again.
Yeah, one thing I'm keeping my eyes on for those guys who are battling in 9th position. We're about 35 minutes into this race at this point. And that is 5 minutes shorter than the normal running time for a Camel GT race. And if the Camel GT pros can burn off a set of Audi tires over the course of 40 minutes, don't think for 1 second that these guys can't do the same even in the conditions that we're in right now. So as we watch once again, that was Hutchison and McGreevy side by side once again. And my goodness, they keep battling like this. They're not going to have any tires left for the rest of this stint, much less the rest of this race if they were thinking about doing a single stop with no tire change.
Oh, that's actually Haynes
Oh!
that's battling, and he's going to get into the side of McGreevy. Just a little touch sends him off, and he catches it. Haynes is up to 9th with that one. Got to be careful, though. Sometimes you can damage the drivetrain of these cars if you get into the wheel.
Yeah, you've got to be very, very careful about that. These cars are a little bit fragile in that way. But I'm going to be wondering here if that number 68 machine is going to be a little bit angry. That was a little bit of a rough and tumble move there, and maybe wants a little bit of a comeback here as he's going to work his way through. But looks like that's going to be Christian Challoner working his way back through for, I believe, the 3rd time on this field.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's Christian still hanging to about 8 seconds, it looks like, ahead of Travis Warling. But this shows you, I mean, gosh, barely 40 minutes into this race. And we're already seeing him through 3 times past these drivers. And we got somebody in pit lane, Lynn Kinchlow, for some reason, is in. Did he have an incident out there?
Or is he trying to work the race backwards? That usually doesn't work here, but he's far enough back that he's got to try an alternate strategy. He's got a friend, Rob Bowers, who's coming in. So guess a couple of people are trying to do the math and do this thing from the back.
Taking tires, that's to be expected in these cars. If you're going to get a full tank, you've got time to go up on the jacks. So,
But they don't need a full tank. They haven't run a full tank, Joe.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I'm not sure how long it takes, though. We'll have to check in and see if we can find out what the bogey time is then for something like that. But maybe that'll be a bit of a moot point since they'll probably have to run it dry from here on out. And Kinchlow is done and on his way. Powers finishing up. It was 42 seconds for reference for the 44 car. 40 seconds for Rob Power. Ooh, interesting.
Very interesting indeed. All right, we're going to have to be scribbling that down on some of the math here to try to figure out exactly what that play is going to be as Kinchlow gets his way back out of pit lane here. A very tricky pit exit, it has to be said, and a very long one. It's something that we're certainly going to be talking about over the course of this race.
One thing, though, is that it's the modern version, so it used to be that you'd absolutely just book it coming off of pit lane and try to take that first corner, which is a single lane, as fast as you can. Now the pit speed limiter has to stay on. Well, I guess these things don't have pit speed limiters, but the exit cones are all the way after that corner.
Yeah, I've got the numbers, and it looks like a 44-second stop for full fuel and tires for our drivers. So 42 seconds and 40 seconds are short. Shortest is Daniel B. Johnson, but he was in for his damage. He's been 8 laps on his stint. So I think Lynn Kinchlow and Rob Powers were full service. So we might be seeing... Yeah, we should be seeing our GTPs coming in... well, it's going to be a bit, actually, because based upon the information that I've got, they can go for about 27 to 28 laps. So, yeah, just about 2 laps time, and we should see our leaders in.
That's still going to make it really tight in terms of strategy, though. So we'll see how that goes for them as the number one carries on around. He's trying to overtake his Mega Racing teammate, Tom Abramitis, and goes up around the high side and carries on his merry way. Still now at about 9 seconds over Travis Warling and continuing to grow that gap. We were watching it on screen a little bit ago. Bennett, Morton, and Dowd are still very tight together, but they're being split by Jason Wallet currently. And in fact, that is our leader that we're still on board with now, who's coming up to them. There we go. So he's going to go on by and actually also have to lap someone in his own class.
Yes, he is, Joe, as there he goes by for, I believe that is the third time as of what Adam predicted is about 10 for all of those runners, and that looks to be Wallet that he will put a lap down in his own class potentially. And look, Wallet there just stays out of the way. Good sportsmanship from the unorthodox racing driver, recognizing the challenger was coming on and just giving him the space to be able to go on through.
And Warling's in the pit, Joe. Travis Warling from second position is in pit lane. First of our front runners to take to the pits, and he's a little early.
It's lap 27 for him, so yeah, maybe he's splitting the difference. Maybe he's kind of figured out this is a more even laps between stints. I'm not sure exactly what his thought process is, but I'm sure we'll start to figure it out as things go on. Warling waiting for his fuel to finish up. He's got a ways to go. It's only halfway through the pit stop, as it does take a long time. Brandon Fick is going to join him in this 777 and is just coming into his pit stall now.
Ooh, so missed Fick, it just a little bit.
Yeah, you're right there, Adam.
So Travis Warling should have a longer stop than Kinchlow and Powers here. Warling 47 seconds. Where's Kinchlow? Kinchlow actually is well behind him. So he's about a lap down from him. So that's not even a competition. So that's not going to give us good reference for now. Jimbo Pfeiffer also pitting in, as you can see on your screen. So both of those drivers taking what we believe are scheduled stops. Someone else is joining them now
Challoner
as well. And that is, yes, indeed, our leader.
So that's going to be that's going to be the barometer is Warling versus Challoner, because that was 1 and 2. Now, granted, Challoner was 8 seconds ahead by the time he took to the pit stop, so we have to count that into the calculation when he comes out. But 47 seconds in the box for Travis Warling is the barometer we're looking for, as Lyndon Swaby comes into the pits as well from second.
Kirby follows. We got a ways to go before LaHerbier catches up. But yeah, I think you called it right on the nose there, Adam, that seems about 28 laps is the typical standard for a stint on fuel for these GTPs.
4 wide across the start-finish line with Vincent LaHerbier and a couple of the GTOs. That was Joey Haynes, Wayne Hutchinson, and Brian McGreevy. I think McGreevy was below the yellow line to try and make that pass.
Yeah, that was Hutchison that you saw there that was down at the very, very bottom, but he's able to keep going in that number 17 as they come into the International Horseshoe. Challoner just finishes his stop, and he's on his way. We're still waiting on LaHerbier because he's managed to stay out in extra laps. Looks like Kirby and Kuhn are pitting in. And let's see, do we have William Fletcher pitting? He's going to be the next one approaching. That's Travis Warling back out. Travis gained a little bit of time on Christian Challoner.
And it was all in the pits, Joe. 2 seconds made up in pit lane alone. Christian Challoner was on the lane for 120, Travis Warling for 118.
So pretty much everybody except Jason Wallet and Vincent LaHerbier have stopped now. So those two were able to push it to lap 28, 29 potentially here for those two. Vincent LaHerbier is actually just out of the Le Mans bus stop right now. Looks like Brent Kirby just finishing up his service as he's passed 30 seconds. We're looking at about 46 to 48 seconds for a typical stop here in the prototypes. And the 19 looks like he is on his way. So 19 is out. Brent Kirby finishing his up, and he's out in about 48 seconds. That's a good stop. Vincent LaHerbier finally has to fly the white flag. He's out of fuel and is in the pits.
Yes, he is. So there he comes on down. The Canadian driver going to bring it into pit lane. Perfect hit on the box, up onto the jacks yet again. And so that means that the number 027 will be the penultimate driver to take their service. We're still waiting for the 114 of Jason Wallet. We anticipate here, Adam, and you just said it in our private chat here, that we should anticipate the Audis coming in here in a few laps' time.
Yeah, about 3 laps time for the Audis based upon the calculations that I have been shown. We know that the drivers in the front of the field have been trying to save fuel some of the time. The guys in the back of the field have not, so we might see them a lap earlier, but I would expect about 3 laps time for our lead Audis.
114 is finally in. That marks the last of our prototypes that needs their first stop. That said, I believe Daniel Johnson is the one that had the out-of-sequence stop. Yeah, he's on lap 12 currently, so he's going to need an extra pit stop most likely here, or at least a very different strategy compared to those around him to wrap this one up as Jason Wallet takes tires and fuel. But where will he return? Still has about 40 seconds to go. Make that 30 seconds to go to finish up his pit stop. Meanwhile, the battle for the lead has not abated. Bennett, Morton, and Dowd are still going at it hammer and tongs. Critically for them, they've dropped Abramitis and Milwain.
Yeah, they have. It's really a 3-horse race at this point. And let's be clear, this is not just a little bit of a couple of seconds back. Abramitis is 6.5 seconds back at this point, and Milwain's about 5 seconds back from him. So this is pretty critical in terms of that time. I think Abramitis, if he wants to be in contention to be able to run, he has got to get a move on here before the pit stops and put himself back in the contention for the podium.
Look at what the fresh tires did for Christian Challoner. He sets another fastest lap of the race there. So he is on it from the word go. and is already trying to stretch away. Meanwhile, Bennett is at the front of this train on your screen. We switch back behind them to Brian Halleck trying to outgun Joey Haynes, and then Jeff Schmeier just behind them being flanked by Wayne Hutchison as well. Seeing these trains really form, forcing drivers to think 12 steps ahead and think about the finish, not just what they're doing right now.
Yeah, when they get back up onto the banking, it really does look like a Daytona NASCAR race, just with a little bit of smaller vehicles. But these things are more of a box than a NASCAR car ever has been. And so they punch a much bigger hole in the air, which either allows for a lot more overspeed for passing or a lot more draft for saving fuel.
On the backstretch, Joey Haynes has a monster run here. Look at this car coming up on them. That's Travis Warling. Manages to find just the right time to slow it up and is now going to be able to overtake them, I think, without causing any sort of problem. Now, those of you that have noticed with the lights coming on that we have lights on the Nissan, but no lights on the Audis, you are correct. The Audis did not run at night. In fact, these two cars actually didn't technically race against each other at any point during that 89 season. But for the purposes of fun out here, we've got them together here in iRacing.
Yeah, and thankfully, because of the modern layout here of Daytona, we do have lights pretty much all the way around here, so there's not going to be any real problem for the Audi drivers having to worry about visibility. They will be able to see the entire way through.
Ooh, that was very wide there from Brian Halleck, and Joey Haynes easily takes that sixth place in class away from him. You could see with the sun pretty much down, air temperature and track temperature getting very close to one another now.
Yeah, but 15 miles an hour of wind, that's really going to affect the Nissans, especially coming out of the east. That's going to be a side wind or a headwind into this braking zone, and it's just sketch. It's just sketch is what I'm going to say for the Nissans. 15 miles an hour is a lot of wind. It's like what we saw at Texas today in F1.
Indeed, and this is a big flat state as well down here in Florida, so there's not a lot to break that wind, I can tell you that. Up on the high side, they're going to go three wide briefly as Wallet goes around them. Joey Haynes pulls the toe off of that prototype to help him through, and that gets him back into sixth.
Yeah, that gets him back into sixth place as we continue to watch this battle. Joe, it does look like we've got the first of our GTOs pulling off down into pit lane. That's going to be Ozzy Milwane.
Okay, so that's, pretty much exactly about the time that I expected. 50 minutes into this race, which makes for a very small window for their pit stops. They really can't afford to go outside of that. Brian Halleck is going to be pitting in now, so he's the next one to take it.
And the surprise with Halleck is that he's been in the draft most of the day, so he's just been running flat out the whole time. With Ozzy Milwane, it's no surprise because he fell off of that top five quite quickly, so he's been having to do full out on his own most of the day. But it's a surprise to see Halleck have to come in this early.
If we're going to see guys like Bennett and Dowd maybe come in to pit lane here this lap by, since they've been leading a good chunk of this race. Bennett especially here. He's dropped Morton, has been punching the air for him for quite some time. Jeff Schmeier, though, still trying to keep up with McGreevy and Haynes, who still need to take a pit stop. So Milwane, Halleck, both having their service. In fact, Milwane's already back out, it appears.
A bit of a quick stop there for Ozzy. Well, no, it's not. It's about 46 seconds, so that's going to be right in line with what we anticipate to see. But here comes Ozzy coming back out of pit lane. Fresh tires on that car. He'll get himself back up, going and up to speed.
Bennett comes in. Brian Bennett into pit lane from that top group. So exactly what you expected, Joe. Some of our drivers who've been leading a lot of laps coming into the pits for their first stop for the Audis. Justin Morton now continues on as the current leader.
And just by Brian Halleck. Now, obviously, we don't have any full course yellows here, so he doesn't need to be worried about going a lap down. But this obviously gives you an impression of how long it takes to get around for these pit stops. We're waiting for Bennett to finish his service and return, and taking his sweet time. Looks like we've got Joey Haynes and Brian McGreevy as well here in the background now, taking service. We're still waiting on Morton Dowd, Abramitis, Schmeier, and Steele. Hutchison and Barnes as well have not pitted this time by.
So a good amount of the Audis going the full distance as far as the fuel consumption is concerned. I think based upon the running that everyone's been doing at the front, everyone's going to have to come in this time. That would be my guess. Justin Martin would be the one who I would guess who might be able to go longer, but it's unlikely because he's had to punch holes in the air a couple of times to try and catch up to the lead pack. So he's trying to come in with a head of steam. But we'll see whether or not it works out for him because he's going to have to catch up with the likes of Joey Haynes. Of Brian Bennett, who is the first to come in.
Okay, then. So it's certainly going to be differing strategies for some of our drivers because, as I mentioned, it'll be tight for those who pitted early. Speaking of pitting, there's Justin Morton, and Nathan Dowd stays out. Ooh.
And so does Tom Abramitis, which really surprises me because he's been punching holes in the air all race. He must be fuel saving just the traditional way.
Lift and coast. That's really what you need here. Schmeier still needs to get to the pit entry, so we're not sure if he's going to be pitting in this time by. Quite a wide variety between our drivers, a lot wider than I anticipated. But definitely a variety of those that have been doing their best to try and hold on. Schmeier's going to pit in. Steele's going to follow him. So is Hutchison. And so will Barnes, who takes it in deeper into pit lane and gets a spot by braking later. Nicely done by the 4 machine there.
Yeah, very nicely done. And that's one of the things that you can do here at Daytona. You can gain a lot of time as we watch the Dog Bear Racing driver coming up onto the jacks right now, able to get everything done there. Wayne Hutchison going to be getting service on the car and ready to go. Good stop for Justin Morton. It looks like he is out and on his way.
And where is Bennett? It's going to be close, but it looks like Morton is going to be out right behind him and still within the slipstream now that he returns to the track. There's your top 2 effectively once we see Abramitis and Dowd pit in. And Ozzie Milwayne is a whopping 16 seconds behind them. My goodness.
Yeah, Ozzie was already in trouble, but look at this. Lynn Kenchel trying to weave through the Audis as he comes in for his stop. Interesting to see. He had troubles early on, didn't he? So he's in for an off-cycle stop.
I wonder if something happened recently, actually. Last lap looked slow for him.
Oh, he just took a spare car.
Yeah, I'm double checking to see if he had some contact with something or someone here. And not seeing anything quite yet on this previous lap. But I do think I see some of the damage already. So, yeah, he must have just had an issue somewhere around there and decided it was slowing him up enough.
Yeah, you can see it a little bit there. I'm not sure what entirely happened here to Lynn. This is a little bit strange for the number 44.
Don't see any marks of any sort of accident.
And yet he took a spare car this last time, which is a surprise. And it was a short stop, only 15 seconds. Oh, he clipped the inside tire barrier.
That's what it was. That'll do it. Probably borked the suspension with that one, and maybe was forced to take that spare car that time by. Nathan Dowd is back out, and he's held on to the leaders now. So Dowd in the 147 went, I want to say, yeah, he and Abramitis went the longest of anybody. But for Abramitis, it is still not bringing him closer to the leaders. He's about 13 seconds behind and just ahead of Milwayne. So it's become more of a 3-horse race at the front of the GTOs.
Yeah, it was a fantastic stop from Dowd, able to go an extra lap longer and still come out in this lead battle. You can't do it any better than that. He's got to make sure to stay on the back of these guys as Christian Challoner's cutting through them again. This is, I believe, round 4 for Christian coming through. We might actually only get 9 because of the pit stops, but we'll see.
Adam, I want to give credit where credit is due. I thought that for sure we were going to see some chaos and some angry drivers out here today, just because we've covered Camel for so many years and we kind of knew what to expect. But this has been exceptional in terms of the traffic management.
Yeah, it absolutely has. The traffic management has been really good. Everyone's being patient. Everyone's being kind. The battles throughout the classes are very strong and very good, and just a lot of good battling. But when it comes to the multi-class, everyone's being really kind. Now, granted, it's important to note that the Camel Series is an official series and tends to run about 40 cars to 55 cars, and that's where they split. Right now, we only have 28 on track, and it's quite a large track.
This is true, and this is a track that is good for traffic management in these Camel cars. So that, I think, is helping. Regardless, I do want to give a big kudos to everybody in the Major Series for really showing the skill and respect that we've come to expect out of this group. The Ferris wheel is still already up and running and taking the virtual fans up into the sky as the lights continue to come on and the sun dims down below the horizon here at Daytona. The battle for the lead is between Bennett, Morton, and Dowd here in the GTOs. It's been a lot closer for this one over the GTP lead, which is still split by about 6 seconds. But credit to Warling. It was as high as 9 seconds earlier on in this race, and so he's gained somewhat on Challenger since we last looked at it.
Yeah, he has. He's been able to close that down as we ride on board here with Jeff Schmeier a little bit farther back in the pack. He rides behind Joey Haynes right now as they work their way through the kink and down towards the Western Horseshoe. Trying to see if he's going to be able to get anything to play here. Looking a little bit close. I think if Schmeier wants to try to get this move done, he can probably do it here on the NASCAR 1 and 2 if he gets a good launch out of the curbs. But at the same time, he may just want to stick behind and save fuel. We saw how effective that was for a couple of the leaders up front in the pack. Maybe he'll do the same.
This is honestly a train that goes relatively far back. That's Haynes up in 7th, but you could count it all the way down to Brian McGreevy in 12th here, just barely hanging on. But Haynes, who covers the inside, now comes back to the racing line. Schmeier decides not to push it and will stay back in 8th.
I think the further back you are in this group, the less passing you want to do. And that's because you could easily regain a lap of fuel that way. We know that Ryan Steele came in a lap earlier than our leaders. Only 1 lap earlier than Nathan Dowd, so it's actually doing pretty good. But he could regain yet another lap as we see a side-by-side battle between Schmeier and Haynes once again. These guys are definitely duking it out for the 8th position, for the 7th position rather. They don't really have a chance of catching up to the guys up ahead of them unless something drastic would happen.
Schmeier unable to complete the pass, but he gets back in line before Halleck can go on the attack there. Oh, or will he? He's going to sneak inside coming down to the International Horseshoe. Schmeier gives him space at the apex, but that four-wheel drive on the wide line works wonders.
Yes, it does, but the problem is he's going to have to back off before the kink, unable to get it done as they've got a GTP trying to work their way through the field right now. And there he comes up behind, having another little bit of a half-hearted look. A big check up there for the 777. That's going to be Brandon Fick as he tries to get his way through.
Whoa, that was deep. That was too deep. That's going to be Halleck in the 21, who has to give up 2 positions, almost running into the back of Jeff Schmeier. Thankfully, I think he did the gentlemanly thing and decided to try and take avoiding action and sacrificed a bit of his race.
That was a 4-wheel lockup. That is the most uncomfortable position you can be in the Audi, but possible just a lapse of concentration. We don't know, but Brian Steele and Brian Barnes content to run nose to tail. Brian Halleck wants to get back up there. Not going to work this time.
Yeah, he got chopped off at the nose there as Steele said, "Nuh-uh, you lost that spot, and we're not interested in trying this side-by-side stuff." Still got Brian McGreevy in there, so they've lost a little bit of touch with Schmeier and Haynes. They could still gain back up, but it's become a 2 and a 4 car group instead.
Yes, it has. In this four-car group, you see them jostling around here, trying to look for a little bit of the draft. It looks like here that we may have a run coming from that Forge machine. Let's see. That's going to be a little bit hairy there. Trying to work it around the outside is the number 21 there of Halleck. I don't think that's going to play off, and, well, they're going to come into the corner the same way they went into it.
Unfortunately, there are no seats open at the bus here, so he's going to have to really shove his way into one as Halleck once again trying to move down the inside of the International Horseshoe. Steele fights him for it, and he's got a better exit as they come up into the kink. I think a little bit of grass there for Halleck as he has to gather it up as they swing through.
Absolutely, and it's important to note that Steele and Barnes are teammates. So they're trying to, Steele's trying to play rear gunner for Barnes right now and keep Halleck tucked in behind, especially because probably right now Steele is thinking that Halleck is prone to mistakes because of that big one he made coming out of the banking. Regardless of whether that's true or not, I don't think Steele's going to be content letting Halleck go.
I mean, it seems that way to me right now from what we're watching here. He's got another shot at it if he wants to be aggressive. Halleck has the run. He's going to get his nose down to the inside. He's going to try and outbrake him. They'll go wheel to wheel. They give each other space, but it's going to cost them tons of time. And for Halleck, it's not going to work in the end. In fact, he'll lose another position as McGreevy's going to take advantage. In fact, McGreevy's going to get a 2-for-1 here, maybe.
My goodness gracious, everything firing up. Almost a little bit of a misplaced bump draft there on board as we ride on board with that. That was getting very, very sketchy today.
Oh, and he falls back, so now Halleck gets another attempt at it. Steele defends the inside. Halleck is not giving up on this one. Oh, that was unsteady under braking if you're Ryan Steele. He holds on to it in the end and fighting to the inside of Halleck. McGreevy says, thank you very much. I'll get that spot back anyways.
Oh, and there's contact between Halleck and McGreevy as Halleck did not want to see the door closed on him. My goodness.
And, yeah, in fact, Halleck did apologize there. I'm a bit surprised. It felt like the red mist was down for Brian Halleck because he was making moves left, right, and center no matter what the timing was on it. And
or what it cost him, Joe.
Yeah, I know. Absolutely. And that's why I was surprised. I thought that he apologized because I thought, man, he was racing angry there. But no, he, I guess, just didn't really see the writing on the wall and wasn't looking big picture.
Yeah, I guess he did. And we jump back up here to the battle for the lead of the GTOs right now. Bennett, Morton, and Dowd continuing to run line astern. We talked a little bit about that gap between themselves and Tom Abramitis. It is now up to a whopping 17 seconds. So I think we can pretty much consider this a three-horse race.
Yeah, I think that seems fair here. These are the three that have been able to both manage the pace and the fuel at the same time. Quite the skill for these cars that get very, very thirsty with that four-wheel drive coming down into the Western Horseshoe. We got another pitter. This is Brenton Foster.
Yeah, Brenton Foster already took his spare car, so I believe this is just an out-of-cycle sequence for him.
Going to be very close to the halfway mark, actually, for him. So going to be easily a three-stop race for him, splitting it into quarters, it appears, for that 23, taking his sweet time, finishing up the fuel, and then he'll be back out onto the track. Back to the leaders we go here in the Audis, just absolutely slaloming past them. Lynn Kenchlow not waiting around for anybody.
No, not waiting around at all. That was pretty remarkable there from Lynn, and a lot of confidence to be able to do that, not only in his own driving ability, but to trust that there wasn't going to be a lot of movement out of these top three. And I think that comes from actually coming around behind them a couple of times, recognizing that these three are pretty much staying single file here, that we're not seeing a lot of battling going on between the three.
Morton had a run, but decided not to take it. Not too shocked there. I think these guys are all thinking long-term here and are trying to make their way to the finish before they really start to battle.
Yeah, the strat is get the best and exit off of these corners you possibly can and make sure that you are gaining on the car ahead so that you can back off the most and just kind of sit tucked in behind the car ahead and just lifting a little bit around the banking. We do this all the time when we do plate races here in NASCAR, and these Audi drivers are doing the same thing right now.
Now, Brian Bennett has 2 wins to his name here in the majors, but Justin Morton, despite all his years competing, has never taken a victory. So this could be an important one for him. And God, it's got to mean a bunch to him, I would think, if he could take the win in a car that he does have the experience and the time in.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. And frankly, I thought we were going to see him be able to do that on dirt. But if he's able to take the win here, this is going to be a very, very impressive run for Justin Morton. And I've got to say, I think right now it's favoring him. He looks to be in very, very good position. He has been calm, cool, and collected this entire race. And he has seemed to be in the driver's seat, Joe. He looks like he knows where he wants to be, and he's in it.
Yeah, DJ, but at the same time, Daytona favors the lucky. And Justin's luck has not been good this season. And even though he's very comfortable with this car, the draft can negate a lot of that advantage that he would have on raw pace. And so he's going to have to play his cards right and be a little wily in order to come out with this win.
Well, I guess it depends on if you believe in the fate of luck or the law of averages, because by the law of averages, eventually Justin Morton's luck would turn around, and it's got to go his way sometime, especially if he keeps putting himself in good positions. Got to remember that Nathan Dowd is another one that has yet to take a victory in a majors race, so the 147 going to be just as hungry behind them.
Very, very true. We will have to see. And we've got just about an hour and 15 minutes left to figure out how that is all going to play itself out. Joe, I am very excited to see how this is going to play. We still got a round of pit stops to be able to get through. We still got plenty of things to be able to play themselves out.
Indeed. So as we watch them come down into turn 6 once again and onto the oval, we see one of our drivers in. That's Daniel Johnson, who is another off-sequence driver, which probably gives us, frankly, a good chance to take a break, because we'll see the others in not long after this. So with just about the halfway mark on the clock there for this 2.4-hour race, we'll come back with the second half of the Majors Classic Daytona 2.4 after this. Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. We're here for the second half of the Majors Classic Daytona 2.4. Looks like Christian Challenger continues to lead, as does Brian Bennett. More critically, though, Justin Morton got caught out by some traffic, so he now has to try and make up ground to get back to the 71. He and Dowd are still together. We have seen Vincent Leherbier pitting since then. That's the only other car that we've seen in amongst the GTPs. The rest are getting close to the end of that stint. They're about 20 laps in, whereas most of them ran about, we saw 27, 28 laps last time, I think, Adam?
That's right. Yeah, 27 to 28 laps for the GTPs. And so we're expecting them to go, another 7 or 8 laps at this point. So absolutely, as we take a look at P2 in the GTOs, 1.3 seconds behind Brian Bennett, the leader. Justin Morton and Nathan Dowd running nose to tail. Man, my goodness, that looks like that looks like the tuck overroll that the Blue Angels do when you can't see them.
I kind of wondered if he was actually going to push, but I didn't see him really connect with the bumper there. Would have thought that'd be a good thing to do in this situation, because yes, I'm sure that Nathan wants to save fuel, but if I was him, I think we got to keep up with Bennett there so that he doesn't manage to scamper away.
Yeah, I think here at this point you may be doing a little bit of bump drafting to try to move your way up forward if at all possible. That may be the way that you want to try to do that. But we will have to see here what they decide to do, as Rob Powers is going to be the latest to bring his GTP down into pit lane.
Okay, interesting. So another driver that's not quite on the same sequence. It is a little bit early in. We're looking at about 45 minutes that these GTPs can tend to go. So he's definitely going to have...
Whoa, Brian Bennett.
To Bennett there. He's third place. Did he have trouble in traffic here? Oh,
no, misshift. He had a box full of neutrals. He couldn't get the thing going for a good 100 meters.
Wow. And that cost him majorly. 5 seconds behind Dowd and Morton now.
It was the entirety of turn 2, Joe. The entirety of turn 2, he couldn't get it going. Let's listen to let's see if we can get on board and listen to this, because Brian Bennett, this is the worst nightmare for a GTO driver, because you have to let the RPMs get all the way back down to 0 before you start putting the power back in. Brian Bennett, let's see what happens here. Well, we should hear it after he brakes for this corner.
Yeah, look at the tack.
And it keeps going.
Floundering, just floundering.
Still trying. And now he gets it in gear. That was the entirety of turn 1.
Unbelievable. That has changed this race dramatically. Morton and Dowd have gone from needing to catch up to now trying to see if they can continue to run away instead. The good news for Bennett, though, is that Abramitis was so far behind that he still has 11 seconds down to the first step outside the podium. So he's sitting comfortably within third, but he's going to need some pretty impressive pace to catch up. We step a little farther back and get a face full of the 4 rings here coming along the tri-oval. This is Steele and Barnes.
Yeah, and there's that bump draft that I talked about maybe being employed by Dowd and Morton, but it's going to be Steele and Barnes doing it. They're doing it to try to get away here a little bit from Brian Halleck. They do have a GTP coming on their way through the field. That's going to be Travis Warling.
Contact from Travis Warling, and that's going to send Halleck into Steele.
Oh, no. Both of them off, and Halleck
back
onto the track right in front of Brian McGreevy. It looks like the one that'll get away with it is Wayne Hutchison. I think he gathered up 4 positions right there.
Absolutely remarkable stuff. That's kind of what we expected to happen here at some point over the course of this race, Joe, with these cars coming through. There's the first little bit of contact, and it was just a little bit of overspeed. I don't think he could get the car slowed down in time.
I love an onboard of the 17 of Wayne Hutchison. He literally took 3 positions in one corner, just picking them up, saying, thank you very much. You guys can keep messing around. I'm up into 9th now.
Yeah, and that's That's just heartbreaking for Travis. Let's ride on board with Travis Whirling as he's trying to navigate through this. I think he just got a miscommunication. He didn't expect the Audi to be coming across the right side here. Gets it to the back of him, and now just trying to hit the brakes. He has some left front damage that's going to be affecting his straight line speed, unfortunately.
So there's Travis Warling's perspective. Yeah, and that's kind of more what we were talking about. Sometimes, if you don't have the experience, it just you don't expect what those Audis are going to do in that situation. And look at this. Yeah, car goes by for Hutchison. And at first, maybe you'd think, oh, no, I'm going to lose the position. Fights back on the 68 and has to give it up down into the little chicane, into the infield. But then suddenly, as they come around the International Horseshoe, there's a car, and everybody is gone in front of him.
The Red Sea parting in front of him there, Joe, and Hutchison going to be able to move his way now up into ninth position in class. Definitely taking advantage there of other people's misfortune.
We're up to lap 24 and 23 for a lot of our GTPs. It's getting close to when we'll need to take that next pit stop. We've also got a battle for 6 between Kuhn and Pfeiffer. Now, earlier it was Pfeiffer was the one that cost Morton some of his time. And this is why, is because he's been trying to catch up to Nick Kuhn here. And I'm certain that it did not make Justin Morton happy, but these guys have got to run their own race.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Pfeiffer, he's not been lapping as fast as Kuhn on average, so it's just been traffic that's been bringing Kuhn back to him. Now, granted, that's a viable strategy, absolutely, but did something happen with Morton and Dowd?
Yeah, Dowd's in front of him.
Yeah, Morton took it too deep into turn 1, into the horseshoe.
Okay, so a small mistake, unless he wanted him to go by Adam. I don't know if this is more plain games. Yeah.
Well, we know that Dowd was the one who took it an extra lap longer, DJ. Could that have been strategy from Morton?
It very well could have been. I mean, if he maybe wants to just kind of hold on behind here, but I've got to think that there are better places to do that and safer places to do that, Adam. I think if he's going to try to make that move, you'd probably try to pull out there on NASCAR 1 or 2 or NASCAR 3 and 4 as Jimbo Pfeiffer comes down into pit lane.
I wonder if he has some leftover damage here, and that's why we're seeing him in. Ryan Steele, probably, who was involved in that incident, also suffering from some of that damage and now off sequence as he returns to the track. Pfeiffer pitting early, since he wouldn't have been able to make it to the end if he went to the end of his sequence or his stint anyways. I guess he figured might as well come in, take that spare car, get a fresh nose on it, and get back out. Dowd ahead of Morton on your screens. And Justin just hanging out in that number 9. Coming down into turn 1 once again. We've also got, that's lap traffic in front of them. That's Brenton Foster. So that's one of their own class. And he'll have to get out of the way of them here pretty soon.
Yeah, and remember that in the major series, blue flags are informational only. They're not required to move over. Now, granted, there's kind of a gentleman's agreement in this series that people tend to move over for class leaders, but Foster has no obligation to do so, and it's important to note that Justin Morton, at least, is on a team that's battling them for the team's championship at the moment. So,
Warling and Fick have both pitted.
Are they splitting the rest of the race in half?
I think they are.
But that's a long time, an hour and 3 minutes?
Well, they should be able to do
2 more stops.
Or
one more stop, rather.
Yeah, they're going to need one more stop no matter what. So maybe they're just trying to break this up. I wonder if this is tires this time maybe for them. And then the next stop, take no tires. You splash fuel in and get out there and go.
I think that could be a pretty viable strategy there, Joe. Just see how long you can take this to the end and then come on in for a splash and dash. Yeah, I think that's exactly what they're doing here looking at it.
Long stop for Whirling, though. 50 seconds plus in the lane. I wonder whether he had a penalty to serve.
I'm not seeing a black flag. He's taken off now.
55 seconds, though.
That's weird, yeah.
Did he wait for damage to get repaired? Because he still has a spare car left.
Well, doesn't Travis? Yeah, it must have been that. Because wasn't it Travis that ran into the GTOs that caused that big kerfluffle
Yes.
down into the International Horseshoe? So yeah, he probably was getting damage repaired.
Doing a little swap over with his teammate Lynn Kinchlow here. But Travis Worling, who was in second, very close behind Christian Challoner to the tune of about 6-7 seconds. Well, about 12 seconds. Oh my goodness, he's off.
No!
What
He's
happened
off
to Travis?
into the Western Horseshoe. And this is going to be costly in terms of time. He doesn't hit anything, thankfully. But back onto the course he goes. Wow.
DJ, you know what we haven't talked about today? Cold tires on these machines.
No, we have not, and I think we saw the first victim of cold tires in the form of Travis Worling. Let's watch this again, coming down through the kink here. Oh, just loses it. Absolutely stepping out on him.
Wow. Okay. So, yeah, must have been cold tires or something. Just not used to how the car handles. The temperatures haven't changed. Nick Kuhn is now in pit lane. So Kuhn also taking this strategy as we hop on board down through the Le Mans chicane now amongst our GTPs. This is Travis Worling that we're watching as he collects himself after his incident. Going to come upon some more traffic. Foster in front of him to go around. They've also got Morton and Dowd. They're going to stay down to the bottom.
And Challoner's into the pits, our leader, into the pits early by about a lap. So I think everyone's strategy is to try and do a short run in the middle and then try and split this. Yeah, he's trying to split it at the hour mark, it looks like. So he'll do 2 30-minute stints.
Interesting stuff here. Okay. So they know that they're not going to be able to make it on fuel. Might as well get those tires. Try to use them to the best they can here at the end of the race. Challoner waiting now for the remaining 20 seconds for the fuel to finish up. Swaby also coming in to pit here. So this seems to be a very popular strategy. Kirby going to follow suit as well.
Yeah, looks like this is the way to go here, Joe. Absolutely everybody wanting to come on in to be able to do this. This looks like, I think, I would not be surprised if we see the entire field doing this here at this point.
Justin Kirby got a speeding penalty entering pit road, unfortunately, so he's going to have to serve that in the pits.
Oh. Also, Lyndon Swaby. Swaby got one, it looks like. So
yes.
He's in there. Oh, man. And again, old school cars, there are no pit limiters on these things. So you got to really watch that tack as you come in and make sure that you stay under the pit speed limit. William Fletcher, the latest to come in.
So most of the GTPs following Christian Challoner in. My question is, was Christian responding to Travis Worling with his strategy, or was Christian's strategy his own? And then everyone else responding to Christian. We'll never know. Well, unless we ask them after the race. But yeah, this is very interesting to see that most people were coming in early. But those who are coming in right now, they actually came in after 27 laps. So they're about on time.
Well, if it was to cover off Worling, Christian, I guess, didn't have to fear, but he didn't know that. He didn't know that Travis had that spin. Because the only thing I could think of is that Travis could maybe try to get track position by putting some hot laps in on fresh tires. But that's not exactly how that wound up working out.
Yeah, not exactly how it worked out there for him, as Worling still finds himself about 30 seconds behind Christian Challoner here at this point with that longer pit stop. But right now as they run, we keep our eye here on the number 90, the UDOX Lola driver, working their way around, just trying to see if he's going to be able to gain anything in. Don't know how much he's going to be able to get, but we'll have to see.
Now, we wondered about Brian Bennett being able to catch up to Dowd and Morton. I wonder if we could get a lap comparison between Bennett and the 9 here, because it was about 5 to 6 seconds. It's down to 4. Now, this could be somewhat due to traffic, so we'll have to keep an eye and see if the trend continues, but this is good news for the fans of the 71.
Yeah, very good news for the fans of the 71, with one exception, with the fact that he is going all out, whereas the two guys at the front are very much taking it easy. Justin Morton is soft shoeing it out of all the corners, trying to short shift that thing to get as much fuel mileage out of it without spinning the tires. So Justin Morton's trying to set himself up for a really good run at the end of this race where he can go all out and probably try and do it on this set of tires as well if it's going to be any sort of penalty in the pits. So to ride on board with Brian Bennett, he can just see the back of Brenton Foster, who's a lapped car that's actually having a hard time trying to get past our two leaders because he is faster on track right now.
Ooh, we got to watch out for the battle in fourth in the GTPs as well, because Fick and Swaby are split by only about half a second. They've both taken pit stops recently, but Swaby just came out from his. So slightly fresher tires as you see them come through the tri-oval. That is Brandon in the white. That is Swaby in the dark.
Yes, it is. And then here comes Swaby trying to bring as much around that outside as humanly possible, trying to bring a lot of speed there. Actually looked like he lost a little bit of time down through turn one. Now, that other GTP in the background, that is not on the lead lap. Not entirely sure who that is, but that is not for this battle. These two cars are the only ones we're watching on.
Going to go on by Ozzie Milwayne here, but they catch him at a kind of awkward spot and trying to take advantage of it. It looks like Swaby wants to go the long way around. They're going to split him. No, he unfortunately has to wait his turn. And now Milwayne is able to get out of the way and off to the side. Thought Swaby was going to pull a master stroke there.
And it looked like he would have had Milwayne committed to the racing line on the inside. But because Milwayne was a little bit concerned about these two GTPs duking it out with him, he actually went to the middle of the track, and that opened up the door for Brandon Fick to go on his inside. So a little bit of miscommunication, but I don't think it's really going to matter because here comes Swaby with a head of steam. He needs a good run out of Le Mans here to try and get a good run onto the back straight, and he should be able to pass him into one.
Often affectionately called peg leg, and has actually been known to stream with a pirate costume at times. So Lyndon Swaby, who comes up behind Fick, man, much better top end speed in this 424 car. And despite switching to the outside, looks like he's not going to fight it. Fick is going to allow Lyndon up into fourth.
And I think that's a good heads-up play there from Brandon Fick, just kind of recognizing the overspeed from Lyndon Swaby and allowing him to be able to bring himself along there. The question's going to be here for Fick, though. Maybe he's going to be able to hold up behind, try to save a little bit of fuel, maybe cut down some time on the pit stop. They're going to be held up a little bit by Brian McGreevy there as they work their way out of the International Horseshoe.
Yeah, let's not forget that Swaby had that long stop because of the penalty. He and Kirby for, we believe, speeding in pit lane. So they're on a recovery drive now. LaHerbier still needs another stop as he stopped about 11 minutes ago. But actually, I think he is on the same strategy or close to the same strategy, though, because he still needs another stop. These guys need another stop. So Swaby's outside the podium right now, and LaHerbier potentially is in. And that's a pretty big gap there. We're talking 21 seconds up to the 027 here. Lyndon's got work to do.
I'm just getting out my calculator to do some math to figure out whether or not Vincent LaHerbier will be able to do it on one more stop. Oh no, Brandon Fick falling afoul of that curb on the inside right again. We've seen it 3 times tonight, and Brandon is the 4th.
So this looks pretty similar, I think, to what we saw before. Single car incident, getting loose out of the chicane, and unfortunately that barrier is just right there. There's no saving it. There's no runoff. It's just right into the safer barriers.
Yeah, absolutely nowhere to go there, and that's just a combination of running a little bit too hot through the corner and just missing it up, and that is going to be, unfortunately, Brandon Fick's day. Doesn't look like it's done and dusted, but it certainly does look like it is very, very compromised.
Checking to see if he's taken his spare car. No, he does still have his spare car. So if he can get to about 45 minutes to go, he could probably hop in and take that spare car and get back out there. In the meantime, got a battle for just inside the top 10. Rob Powers sees William Fletcher grow larger in his mirrors.
Yeah, William Fletcher's been lapping just about the same times as Rob Powers at the moment, but he's definitely within draft range, just barely. 1.3 seconds seems to be about the limit of the draft capabilities of most cars in iRacing, but it's definitely true of the GTPs. So he's going to be clinging to the back of Rob Powers, trying to gain that speed just a little bit. Currently, about overspeeding him by a mile an hour, 2 miles an hour. So he just needs to be good through Le Mans to get a good exit, and then should have a decent draft coming out the other side. A pretty good run there from Fletcher, but not as quick. Take a look at this, though. Rob Powers and Will Fletcher. Here's Justin Kirby trying to go around the outside of them in P5.
Yeah, lapping them right now. I don't think we've mentioned it, actually. We only have 4 cars left on the lead lap. Challoner, Warling, LaHerbier, and Swaby. Everybody else has been put a lap down by Christian Challoner. He's been running such an amazing pace here today.
Yeah, he is just absolutely in a field of his own. And Joe, how many times have we said that over the course of the past 2 seasons? He is just dominant, as he always seems to be.
Looks like it was a little wide for William Fletcher, and Brent Kirby went by. So he's going to get up into 11th now with that move. We look at Wallet in Kenchlow fighting for 13th. Last 2 spots in the prototypes. Still have all 28 runners running out here right now. Oh no, Brandon Fick. Oh, I thought he had another incident. He's pitting in, but this is surely got to be too soon for that 777.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately,
he's done.
Yeah. But Justin Kirby just had a moment. 2 moments, actually, in the Western Horseshoe. Still recovering. Nothing, no harm, no foul, but my goodness, those are scary moments in the GTPs when the rear end spins up on you, and then you spend the entire lap trying to recover.
Yeah, here we're going to see it once he gets to the Western Horseshoe. This is coming through turn 1 here. Kirby, again, the first one a lap down, sitting in 5th position. Starting to discover just how hard it is to drive these things focused for 2.5 hours. Here's where it happens. Watch on the entry into the Western Horseshoe. Almost immediately, you'll see the rear of the car start to go. And just no saving it.
Oof. And he is very, very lucky that that car sort of locked itself down there, Joe, instead of really flying off to the side and outside into those outside tire barriers. A very lucky customer there was Justin Kirby.
And then hot tires, he slides it again, trying to get on exit, and he'll slide it again, trying to come through onto the banking, because once you heat up those rear tires in the GTP, it really does take a lap to try and get it back down. Now, interestingly enough, Nathan Dowd and Justin Morton are separated by 1.2 seconds, so neither of them are getting any fuel saving right now. This is going to make things interesting when it comes for their pit stops at about 3 or 4 laps time.
Trying to see what separated them. Looks like actually Christian Challoner coming through kind of pulled them apart a little bit, and it's broken the slipstream for Morton, unless he's got the pace to try and get back up to Dowd here. And Bennett actually has caught up because of them. And there you can see the difference between Morton and Bennett. And yeah, that last lap, half a second faster for Brian Bennett. So he definitely is appreciating that traffic slowing them down. Sad to say that I spoke a little too quickly there a few minutes ago, and Brandon Fick, as we mentioned, is our first car to retire in this race. But that's still impressive. And more than an hour and a half now that we've been running, that we've lost only 1 out of 28.
Yeah, that's a real testament here to the drivers. And Joe, I know you and Adam are the mainstays here on the Camel GT series, and you can attest just how many incidents and accidents we normally have in a Camel GT race. And to see only those 2 retirements, very impressive.
And Joe, I'm looking at Justin Morton on Nathan Dowd, and it's 1.8 seconds and dropping. Dowd's gone. Justin's fallen off the back at this point unless Dowd gets held up significantly, and there's just not enough traffic to do that to him. So unless Dowd makes a mistake, Justin's going to have to work this out on his own. Looks like Ryan Steele's had a problem in the GTO.
Yeah, it was Brent Kirby who really plowed into the back of him into the International Horseshoe. We need a replay on the 12 here, because he just got utterly punted and went right into the Armco. It looks like we've got it pulled up.
I've seen this too many times, Joe, where an Audi GTO is just trying to get back to their line. The GTP is coming in with a head of steam, and that GTP can break so much later, a good 200, 300 meters later in some cases. And this is not one of those cases, but it sure feels like it when this happens. You'll see it right now. Ryan Steele moves to the right, hits the brakes, and gets sent.
Yeah, just picked it out wrong, did Justin Kirby, and unfortunately it was Steele that fell victim on that one in the end. Going to watch it one more time from above. Really should illustrate here from the chopper view, give you a perspective of how much later the GTP tends to break, and if you don't give that space to the side, to be fair, it didn't seem like Ryan was fully off to the left-hand side, but yeah.
Yeah, but it's on the GTP to avoid that contact, and I just don't think he expected the GTO to break that late, and that's just a lack of familiarity with the other class, and we see it all the time. And one of the things about the Major Series that's so awesome is that, you know, they tend to run different cars, different tracks, different combinations all the time, and so you're not going to have that familiarity like you do in a normal series. But Halleck into the pits, taking fuel and tires.
45 minutes to go. He should be within that pit window and able to carry on. So this should be the last one that he'll need. Rob Powers, though, has a bent rear wing. What in the world did he do here? This
was out of the Western Horseshoe.
Yeah, I just found it myself. We're watching the replay. We're a bit far back here, so we'll have to ride along the infield, and actually just about got sent back into traffic when he had his incident. So watch for the exit of the Western Horseshoe. This is a strange one, frankly. Almost like he maybe dipped his tires into the grass and then just never quite fully had control of the car.
Yeah, I'm not sure here, Joe. Let's we take a look there. He comes down in, gets onto the binders here, coming out to the outside of the Dog Bear car in front of him. Brings it in, no touch of the grass there. Just right at the curbs. I think he may have caught that curb a little bit wrong. I think that's what it was, that it just kind of flicked it up into the air, and that could have been enough to send him up.
Big hit there with the Blue Armco, and had to take a tow for that one, unfortunately. Looks like he's taken a spare car in the meantime, and it is back out. So he'll... Oh, excuse me. We were looking at a replay still. One more look. Yeah, left-hand side of the car just totaled, unfortunately. Ooh, Brian Bennett is in. I was just about to ask if we could get a lap comparison, but now that's going to be a bit of a moot point.
Yeah, and this is what I was talking about, Joe. Brian Bennett's been having to go full throttle ever since his incident. And Nathan Dowd and Justin Morton have been soft pedaling it. Well, at least Justin definitely has. Nathan hasn't been going full throttle either. That's why Brian was able to catch up. So this is why we're seeing Brian Bennett have to come in early, because he's not able to save the fuel that Dowd and Morton were.
But they are within that 50-minute window, let's remember. So he's definitely good to the end. I don't think he'll need to have to fuel save, and neither should Justin Morton. But he was gaining. It was down to about 2 seconds to that number 9 before this pit stop. Will Justin respond?
Well, if I'm Justin here, I'm going to try to fight this out as long as I can and just try to see how long I can stretch this final stop. That would be my initial instinct here, Joe, but we'll have to see. Plenty of other drivers, Joey Haynes, Ray Partridge, also coming in and out of pit lane.
And the dominoes begin to fall amongst the GTOs. They should be able to get to the finish from here. It should be their final stop. How many of the GTPs will we see do likewise, because they are getting close and actually should be just about within that window now themselves.
Yeah, but it's going to be really close. They're going to have to do a lot of fuel saving. Doing some quick back of the table math, I know it's dangerous to do on air, but 1 minute 45s at 27 laps is 47 minutes. So they should be able to make it, but they're not going to be able to run their fastest times that they would like. So they've got about a 5-minute buffer that should give them enough fuel to go to the end.
Rob Powers finished his repairs. He's going to be able to get back out on track, and he did indeed take a spare car. So just called a little bit early. He's back and rolling and probably hoping to stay a little bit more on track at this stage. Bennett comes out right with Schmeier. Now, this is interesting. This is for position, but Jeff still needs to stop. So this is bad for Brian Bennett.
This is very bad for Brian Bennett. He's going to need to try to clear that number 30 as quickly as possible and try to maybe use a little bit of that precious fuel here to get himself up and going, I would have to think.
He could try and sit and wait behind, but he might be losing time here. They're going to go 3 wide as they get passed by Brent Kirby. And he's going to try and outbrake. No pit stop for Schmeier that time. He's going to stay out, but he's going to tuck in behind Bennett. So maybe Bennett has been able to get through and not have to worry about this too much. Dowd, Morton, Abramitis, none of them have pitted this time. So only Brian Bennett, amongst our leaders, has been in and out to finish his final stop.
Yeah, and I can report that Lynn Kinchlow is the latest victim of the final right-hand curb of the Le Mans sequence. No need to go to the replay for that, but unfortunately, he lost a couple of positions now and has fallen behind Jason Wallet into 12th.
Let's see. Did he hit anything here, Adam? Because
doesn't look like he did, but unfortunately lost a lot of time trying to get that car back up to speed.
Power's back in the pits again. Did he have another problem? Oh, I see a black flag. I suspect he either has a speeding penalty from the last pit stop or he maybe hit the incident limit here.
How much you want to bet he forgot about the new pit lane with the limiter where you take?
Yeah, I bet you that's the case.
If he has the iRacing limiter on, then...
And I want to correct myself that, well, there is no pit limiter on these cars. That's the thing. I want to correct myself. He's not going to have a penalty, a drive-through penalty for incident limits. He'll actually be DQ'd on the spot. So that is definitely for speeding and has to come back in and serve that. Going to pay attention to it this time, that's for sure. He's looking very deliberate coming down to the cones to finish his pit exit. Meanwhile, we watch between the battle from 6th place in the prototypes, Kuhn versus Pfeiffer.
Yeah, and here comes Jimbo. Looks like he's going to have a good run here on the back of Nick Kuhn. The question is what is he going to decide to do with it here as they continue to power their way ahead, working their way into the corner. He's going to be right up behind. Here he goes for the move, Joe.
Looking on the outside as they head through the tri-oval. Pfeiffer's going to have to break deep here. Kuhn has the inside still. No, it's Kuhn who is going to break just a little early and give up the ghost. Move Jimbo Pfeiffer up to 6th place. And by the way, he's up 6 positions. This has been a great race for the double aught.
Yeah, very much is. Wayne Hutchison into the pits in the GTOs as well as Justin Morton. Justin has to breathe earlier than Nathan, and he was 4 seconds behind.
Yeah, 4 seconds.
Is up ahead of him.
4 seconds behind there and was losing time. Now, what about Bennett? Bennett is coming through the first couple NASCAR corners, actually. Yeah, NASCAR 1 and 2.
Oh, I think he's got him. Man, it's got to be close.
So it was 43 seconds for Brian Bennett's stop. We're up to 23 for Morton. Bennett's now coming through the inner loop, through the bus stop chicane. There you can see him coming back onto the banking. Morton's up to 37 seconds, but he has to come out of pit lane here. 38 seconds is a very fast stop for the 9.
Saved fuel for sure.
Here he comes. Is he going to be able to pull this out? I think he just might be able to.
It's going to be close, though. Remember, he's got to go all the way to the cones, which are at the end of the corner here. Now he hits it. Bennett's coming down to the braking, but Morton's got a gap of what looks to be about 7 to 8 seconds.
And Jimbo Pfeiffer's into the pits now from the 7th position, so his battle with Nick Kuhn is over. My eyes are on Nathan Dowd to see whether he comes into the pits. He's coming out of the front straightaway now as Jeff Schmeier is in the pits again. Nathan Dowd should have to come in this time and doesn't. Oh my goodness, he's going long. This will be lap 30, Joe.
Wow. So Abramitis is also on the same strategy for what it's worth. We'll see if he stays out. He's going to be on to lap 30 this time, although he is well far behind him. But man, some impressive fuel saving from the drivers so far in today's race. Abramitis is in. Dowd's going to be the only one to make it to 30 laps on a tank of fuel.
But is that going to be the winning strategy, DJ? If Justin goes all out from this point on and Dowd's still trying to fuel save to make it into the pit box, how much time is Dowd going to lose?
I've got to think he's going to be losing a fair amount of time here as they run around. I don't think this is the right strategy whatsoever.
All right, well, Morton is coming around right now. He should easily be ahead of Abramitis. He was not the one he was fighting. And in fact, yeah, Morton is coming around to the tri-oval right now. Abramitis still finishing up his services down off the jacks, just waiting for the fuel to finish. For those who are curious about the prototypes, though, Challoner is now up to half a minute ahead of Travis Worling.
And here's the interesting thing. Justin Morton is 1 minute and 1 second behind Nathan Dowd. It's 1:18 in the lane, but it's a shorter circuit around turn 1 because you're all way inside of the corner. So it's still going to be close, but we're looking to see whether or not the gap between Dowd and Morton closes at all over the course of this lap, because that will be telling as to whether or not Dowd is going to lose advantage. And he's into the pits. Dowd's in.
I would be shocked if he managed to go another lap around. So Morton 55 seconds behind. I think Bennett, though, has got a little bit better pace than Justin. He's cut it down from 8 seconds to 6.6 now. We're still a half hour out, so that's plenty of time for Bennett to cut into Justin's lead and make himself a force in this battle for the win.
Yeah, it certainly is, Joe, and we're going to have to see. I'm going to be very, very interested to see what this pit stop comparison is going to be between Dowd and Morton here as they come on out. Working their way through, that is going to be Morton as he brings his way around out of Le Mans and into NASCAR 3 and 4.
2 seconds. 2 seconds faster.
Wow, look at that on your screen right now. It's a quick stop for Nathan Dowd. Morton's coming into the tri-oval as Dowd is just heading around the pit exit lane. Where's the cones?
It's going to be like 6 seconds.
Wow.
Morton was 4 seconds behind when they came into the pits, and those 2 seconds in pit lane that Dowd was able to save fuel have equated to 2 seconds on track.
Unbelievable stuff. So first, second, and third are all split now by roughly 6 seconds each in the GTO class. It's a question of who's got the pace from here, because surely all three of them are just foot to the floor from here.
Yeah, I think that's right about that, Joe. I mean, they came in with enough time to be able to make their pit stop work. This is going to be an absolute blast of a run here to the end.
Worth noting that Haynes and McGreevy have been fighting, and actually McGreevy just took it right now as we switch over to that battle. That's into the bus stop. So Brian McGreevy up to 8th, but it looks like it's going to go right back as Haynes has a good exit.
Yeah, but Haynes is going a long way around on that high line, so it's actually going to be advantage to McGreevy as they come off of this corner as Jason Wallet streaks by. So McGreevy's going to get a little bit of a boost, but Haynes pulls away from the side draft, is about half a car length ahead and has the preferred line going into the corner. Will Brian McGreevy stick it out? He brakes later than Haynes. He's going to cross in front of Haynes, put the bumper to him.
Remember, for all the GTOs, barring, I believe, Brenton Foster. Actually, no, I take that back. Brian McGreevy has 19 laps on this stint. I think he still needs to pit.
Yeah.
So if Haynes has somebody on the box, they need to be on with him and tell him, don't fight him hard. His battle is not with you.
Love the strategy that gets to play out here late on in the run, Joe. This is absolutely fantastic stuff.
Haynes still sticking with him, though, and fighting hard here, Adam. So I hope someone makes him aware soon.
Yeah, I hope so, too. Just looking at our timing and scoring screens, noticing that Christian Challoner's lapping 3/10 of a lap faster than Travis Worling. His fastest lap is a 32 flat, versus the next fastest lap, which is Travis Warling at a 32.46. So quite different lap times for those two drivers, but Joey Haynes going for the move again.
And there you can see he's going to fight him hard. That is risky for a car that you don't need to fight strategy-wise. Haynes is going to get the spot at least, and McGreevy will have the tow this time coming up to the tri-oval. And let's see if he takes it right back. He's pulling up very quickly to the rear bumper.
Yeah, very quickly indeed. He's going to move to the outside here, coming down into Le Mans, or coming down through the tri-oval, rather. He's going to have to be later on the binders if he wants to make this work, but we're going to have to see. This is going to get a little bit hairy. I think he's able to get the move. No, he's not. He's going to have to fall back.
Starting to see some of our drivers in the prototypes pit in for their final stop. Oh, no. Lyndon Swaby, who is in contention to try and fight for the podium, has had a massive accident. We need a replay on the 424. He's found the tire barrier at the Le Mans chicane and just wound up walloping them.
So here he comes out of the corner, heading towards the braking zone. He's going to brake a little bit later and try and turn at the same time. Yeah, wow, he braked at the 100-meter board. That is never going to end well, and unfortunately gets stuck in the barrier.
So he had to take a tow. We're going to get one more look at it here. Oh, no, he's had to retire. That is it for Lyndon Swaby. This incident will end his day prematurely with a mere half hour left to go.
Oh, and you hate to see that. Just the slightest miscalculation there as they brought it through, as Swaby brought it through, and that is just not going to be enough to play it out. A heartbreak there for Lyndon.
Well, the point I was trying to make before I realized that incident happened, Nick Kuhn has had his pit stop. Jimbo Pfeiffer has had his pit stop. They're ready to go to the end. Looks like Daniel Johnson, Lynn Kinchlow as well, but they're farther down. So we wait for guys like Kirby, LaHerbier, Warling, and Challoner, who still need to have their last stop to get to the finish.
This is the battle for P6 of the GTOs, Brendan Foster and Jeff Schmeier. They are not on the same strategy at all. Foster, 28 laps on this stint. Schmeier just coming out of the pits 4 laps ago. So this is not realistically a battle for position on track because Foster still has yet to pit for his last time.
So pretty similar to what we were seeing between Haynes and McGreevy as well. And we don't know whether or not these drivers are aware, because not everybody has a crew chief or extra help with a spotter. Let them know the situation. But these are our best battles right now here in that GTO class. Nobody else really near one another currently. And LaHerbier in for, I think, a scheduled stop. Let's check here. Yes, scheduled stop for LaHerbier.
A regularly scheduled stop for Vincent. So in and out, 33.6 seconds. So a much smaller fuel consumption fuel tank this time. So he'll be out and away. Justin Kirby is going to be right close to him, actually. And Justin is 18 laps into a stint, so should be able... Oh, man, it's going to be close for Justin to make it to the end of the race this time.
You think he can make it from there? That's...
10 laps. I don't think he can make it.
No, not in a half an hour. Certainly not. So I was going to say I'm pretty certain he has to stop. So does Warling. So does Challoner. Brent Kirby and Fletcher, so does Jason Wallet. They all need one more pit stop to get to the end of this race with 27 minutes left to go on the clock. They can still run it out if they so desire. Nothing that says that they need to come in now necessarily. In the case of Challoner, he still has about 9 more laps before he should be out of fuel.
So it's going to be a little bit of a, I think, decision there, Joe. Maybe trying to see for some of these drivers, it may be traffic that indicates when they're going to come on in to figure out when they want to do that, to decide, maybe just to be able to get out of the way of some of those lapped cars that they're going to have to deal with.
Riding with Justin Kirby. He's now about 2 seconds behind LaHerbier, up in front of him. So Herbier is going to be able to pull away from him for now. And then Travis Warling is the one that's directly in front of him, which is on a different lap. We are down to 2 drivers left on the lead lap. Now, some of that is skewed because we still need pit stops from the 1 and the 90.
This is actually really complicated for these drivers. This is some of the thickest traffic that they've dealt with all day. That's Travis Warling in 2nd position, just up ahead of Justin Kirby, who we're riding on board with, who's in 4th position, a lap down from Travis. And they're all just trying to navigate this GTO and complex GTP traffic. Everyone's on different laps from one another, even the Audis in this group. So everyone's just trying to decide who goes first, who goes second, who goes where.
Ooh, Brenton Foster finally pits in. We were saying he and Schmeier did not need to battle hard, and that releases the 30 to try and carry on his race without any hassle. So Foster going to take his fuel. Anybody else coming into pit this time? I don't see anybody in those GTOs pitting in with him, but we do still need to see Brian McGreevy. Oh my goodness, Joey Haynes just lost it. Coming through turn 1, braking too deep, and this is exactly what I've been talking about. He needs to stop messing around with Brian.
And Brenton Foster,
go ahead,
he's
Adam.
retired, it appears. So Joey Haynes having that spin in turn 1, having that slide through turn 1, as he was battling with McGreevy unnecessarily, as you said, Joe. And I mean, like, at this point, I can ask the question, why, with McGreevy on such a different strategy, why battle him so hard right here and lose all that time?
Yeah, Barnes is about 8 seconds behind him, so Haynes really can't afford to keep making mistakes like that, leaving tire tracks all the way into the runoff there in turn 1. If he keeps sliding out, spinning, and doing stuff, the 4 is going to overtake him.
Yeah, it looks like as we ride on board here with Haynes trying to close up on the back of McGreevy a little bit. You can see that draft starting to come into play a little bit. It certainly is. It's just tickling at about 1 second as of right now.
Watching our overall leader just to see if he's coming in, and Challoner is going to keep staying out with his 45-second lead at this stage and just running it dry, it appears, as he runs the same strategy as Travis Warling here at the end. Here we go again. Joey Haynes pulling up on the slipstream of Ryan Steele, who's not on the same lap. That allows him to leapfrog to try and catch back up to Brian McGreevy, who, again, we can't reiterate enough, should not really be fighting right now because McGreevy is on a different fuel strategy.
Different fuel, different time, and everything. So I think if Joey's thinking critically right now, which sometimes you don't when you're in the cockpit, and I totally get that, but if he's thinking critically right now, he's going to go, wait a minute, I just slid off in turn 1, lost about 5 seconds, and I'm already right on the back of Brian? What's going on here? And hopefully that will help him surmise that Brian's on a different pit strategy than he is.
Oh, and Brian definitely can't make it to the end. He's on 24 laps in at this stage. So McGreevy's not doing any miracle runs on fuel here, because there's no way he's going to get 6 laps to stretch over 23 minutes, unfortunately.
And you know, Joe, what the heartbreak for me is as I'm watching this is, you know, we've been commentating for the Major Series for a long time. DJ, you, me, Joe, we've had a lot of people come in as well. How many times have we seen Justin Morton finish second?
Yeah.
I'd be curious about that stat, actually. We'll have to ask and see. I know Mike Willett, who organizes the series, watches. Mike, if you're out there and watching, see if you can dig up how many times Justin Morton has finished second in Majors races, because he's about to rack up another one at the rate things are going. There you see him on screen in the 9 right now. Dowd, instead, looking set to potentially take his first win. It's up to 8 to 9 seconds between the pair of them, and that has pulled away, that's pulled apart since the pit stop, so it is in the 147's favor right now on pace.
Yeah, it certainly is. So I hate to see that there for Justin, but he's going to have to try to fight back here the best that he can in the closing 20 or so minutes left to go. Not a lot of time left out here for Justin to try to claw this back in.
Well, Haynes learned a little something. He figured out how to make it through turn 1 without slipping out, because he passed McGreevy this time in the same fashion except he made it down to the apex this time. So the 33 is up to 7th, but the 68 was going to have to pit anyways. So he used up some tire, maybe had a little fun along the way, but now he is in front of him. As there we see the lap comparison, and Morton consistently slower. In fact, a whole second slower on lap 68. That's dramatic.
Yeah, it is dramatic. Morton, I think, has unfortunately just lost the ability to try and catch Dowd at this stage in the race. I gotta say, Joe, I'm not used to the level of calmness we've seen today from these cars in this combination. Usually, when we're commentating the Camel GT races, we barely have time to catch our breath for at least 20 minutes, if not more. As we see some of the GTPs lapping and unlapping each other, trying to sneak by Nathan Dowd, who's just going to say, yeah, you know what? Go ahead, guys.
Yeah, no fight there. Travis Warling coming around. Let's see if he pits in this time. He's on lap 25, so he's getting well to the end of his stint. There he is on screen, going to go on past on Ryan Steele as the 90 approaches the pit entry, and indeed he is pitting in, but he's going to have to take evasive action because there goes Brian McGreevy also finally pitting and leaving Joey Haynes alone.
That was a very, very close run down into pit lane, Joe, but Warland clearly able to get it done and get it taken care of. Here he goes down into the pits. Let's see if he's able to hit his marks nice and easy. Looks like he does, and that's going to be a pit stop here for the UDOX Lola driver.
Oh, Ryan Steele, I think in an incident for the second time with Brent Kirby at the same spot. In fact, it was almost a carbon copy.
Well, it looks a little different, and this one is a little more cut and dried, I have a feeling. If we get a replay of this, this is a very, very interesting incident. I feel like this one should go in the instruction manual for the Camel GT series.
Yeah, so here's the 12, once again, kind of minded his own business. And there's Kirby coming up behind him. Kirby tries to go to the left-hand side and brakes too late. Both of them taken out this time.
But
Rough
just
run there.
Yeah, DJ, I mean, it just doesn't make sense to go on the outside of the Audi when the inside's left open. I think it's possibly because of the incident that they had previously that Brent decided to go to the outside, but yeah.
Yeah, it just looked like a little bit of overcommitment there from Brent. I think I agree with you there, Adam. I think he wanted to go to the outside. We're thinking that was going to be clear, and obviously just a miscommunication, but I would have gone down to the inside as well.
Less than 20 minutes to go. Still waiting for Christian Challenger to pit. He and Justin Kirby are... No, I take that back. Brent Kirby and William Fletcher also still need to pit along with Jason Wallet. So we have a couple more cars in the prototypes that do need to come in besides our leader. But because he has not pit yet, Christian Challenger has put everybody a lap down. Now he'll give that back to at least Worley, maybe Leherbier as well once his pit stop is done.
Worling's stop time at 28.7 seconds, so pretty good pit stop for Worling. Very short, actually, compared to pretty much anyone else in the field except for Nick Kuhn.
Yeah, Nick Kuhn had a 23-second stop. Pfeiffer had a 30-second stop. And we're still waiting to get a few others in to show us what happened here. Oh, and William Fletcher is in the pits. Now, did he drive himself into here? Yes, he did. Okay. So this is a scheduled stop for the 28. This is his last run down to his crew and should be back out and good to go to the finish.
All right, so that means he is good to go. As you said there, Joe, we watch Christian Challenger here, still waiting for his pit stop to be able to come on in. The gap pretty large there between himself and the rest of these drivers. As we've already said, we anticipate he should be clean and good to go once he comes back in. I just think, I would imagine here, probably within the next 2 laps or so.
Can we get on board with Travis Worling? Because he's got the most depressing view in the race right now. That car up ahead of him going through Le Mans, that is Christian Challenger, the man who's in first. Travis is in second. Christian is a full lap ahead of him right now.
Yeah, well, he does still need to give that back because he's got a pit, which might actually happen this time by. He's on lap 26 of the stint. He could maybe go a couple more if he so desired, and yes, he does. No, he doesn't. No, here he comes. He is into pit lane, down to his stall, and he is good. No black flags, so no speeding in the pit lane for him. Warling back on the lead lap. Will Leherbier get it back? That's question.
Oh, and interesting there, Joe, the Travis Warling setting the fastest lap of the race last time out, so a very good run there for Warling. He's clearly trying to make up a little bit of time here on Christian. I think it's going to be a little bit too little too late, but still shows that he's got some speed in him.
And Christian's taking tires. I guess he's got such a massive gap here, he figures might as well.
I mean, tires only takes 15 seconds, so
okay,
and it happens during fuel, so you might as well. 21.7 in the box, he's out.
So how far back is Travis Warling after that? Travis is just coming on to turn 6. His Challenger is heading to the cone, so it's close to a minute difference between first and second place. And he is, in fact, going to be ahead of Leherbier. So there is going to be only 2 cars left on the lead lap when all is said and done.
7-second gain in the pits for Christian Challenger, DJ. That is really the nail in the coffin if Christian can keep it clean.
That is just absolutely remarkable. Able to make up 7 seconds in the pit lane, as it looks like he's able to come out a minute and 34 seconds ahead. Just ridiculous. Challenger again showing that he is the class of the field.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, I do believe this might be, we've got Tom Abramitis. He's going to finish 4th. I think this might be the championship clinched for Christian if he hasn't already.
Oh, I believe he has. I believe by starting this race, he would have clinched the championship, but I believe coming into this race, I believe he'd already clinched the championship coming into this race. So Christian riding on that championship high and not looking back.
Meanwhile, this is a battle for position that we were watching briefly. Pfeiffer trying to outrun Kuhn. And that's for P5. And there is Pfeiffer. Now that's Leherbier up around his outside. So that's not for the spot. This is Nick Kuhn just behind him in the 19 Dog Bear machine. You can see those two going side by side, but Jimbo does not want to lose time through this corner. He's trying to stay as far away from Nick as he can. Great under braking here for the 19. He gains quite a bit.
Yeah, he does. Starting to close up behind here a little bit. We've got a bit of a race in our hand. The gap only about 0.8 of a second. That is down a little bit from where we saw it just about a lap ago. So here it comes. Is Nick Kuhn going to be able to run this down?
Justin Kirby pits in. So Justin has his final stop. Brent Kirby also pitting in. Is that the lasso? No, we need Jason Wallet. Nope. Right as I say that, Wallet is in the pits as well. And that might be everybody. Jimbo Pfeiffer and Nick Kuhn are on 14 and 10 laps respectively, but I think they could get to the end from here.
Yeah, I think that's going to be it for everyone in the pits, is my guess. Possibly Brian Bennett. He's on 16, but he's got another 10 laps, and at 144s, yeah, he should make it to the end just fine. So I'm pretty sure that's going to be everybody except for Ryan Steele, who still needs to take a pit stop. He is currently in 13th in the GTOs. But Nick Kuhn, look at him close into the back of Pfeiffer, because Pfeiffer caught up to Brian Halleck in the middle of Le Mans. Kuhn, though, he didn't feel confident taking it quick through Le Mans at that point, I don't think.
He's still going to get a nice little tow. He looks pretty fast in comparison to the double lot here as he gains on him. Does he make an attempt down into turn 1, or does he want to try and wait for a better opportunity? He's not quite going to have the overlap. Defensive move from Jimbo regardless as they break down into the corner. So no move yet from Nick Kuhn, but he is now there.
Yes, he is. He's going to be putting some pressure to the back here as he runs. The question is if Jimbo Pfeiffer is going to react to any of that problem or if he is going to be able to hold his line. Kuhn has obviously been able to carry more speed. The gap came down by about 1/10 of a second there as they ran through the International Horseshoe. Let's see what they can do.
Just to note, Christian Challenger just set the fastest lap at a 31 flat. That's 0.8 faster than Travis Worling's fastest lap, and 3 seconds faster than Travis Worling's last lap.
unbelievable stuff here from Christian Challoner. Just taking this one with authority. I think this will be his 4th championship as well, I want to say, in the majors. I've lost count, frankly, but he's racking them up. And there you see him on screen. 56-second lead over Travis Orling currently, and just basically cruising to victory in these final 10 minutes. Looks like Nick Kuhn is still sitting about 0.7 of a second behind Jimbo Pfeiffer, so he's not been able to close in. However, Brian Bennett is closer by about 2 or 3 seconds to Justin Morton.
Oh.
Justin Morton may have a little bit to deal with here. He's been able to close down pretty consistently over the last couple of laps there. Let's see if he's able to do this. That gap definitely coming down. It's about 4 seconds here with about 11 minutes to go.
Starting to run out of laps, though. If Bennett wants to try and get that second place away, he's going to have to really hustle, because it's a number of car lengths up in front of him. And then he's going to have to pass Morton, although the slipstream should offer him opportunities on that.
Well, you say that, Joe, but Justin Morton right now is tucked behind Brian Barnes. He's going to pass Brian Barnes. So Justin has a little bit of draft here going into Le Mans. And so that's actually going to pull him clear of Brian Bennett by about 0.2 of a second. So, man, it's going to be close for Brian Bennett. He's going to have to work really hard to close that gap.
Worth noting that it's been quite a rout down in the GTOs as well. I think we have only 6 cars left on the lead lap in that class, at least ahead of the class leader, I should clarify on that one. So Jess Schmeier, the last of them, Joey Haynes, has been lapped by Nathan Dowd just recently. Down into the corner, as trying to cover him off. Justin Morton does not want to deal with Brian Barnes. And they do have Brent Kirby coming up behind. Remember, Brent was the one that made some contact into this very corner. We ride on board with Bennett now. I'm trying to think of the last time we saw Brian Bennett, actually. Has he not been around for a while? Because I do see he has somewhat of an older paint scheme on that car.
Yeah, I think it's been a hot minute since we've seen Brian into the field here, Joe, and it's good to see him back. Not entirely sure what happened there to keep him out, but good to see him back in and engaged in the field.
So the race is not over. There's still stuff to be fought for here at the end. So we ride on board with that 71 up onto the banking once again. You can sort of see Bennett, or Morton rather, up ahead of him, but more so, there we go. Yeah, now that we can ride on the roof, that is him just up the road. The next, not the next, but 2 cars up ahead in the GTOs with that lapped car between them currently. I'm sure he'd like Barnes to stay as a buffer for the time being. They're going to get overtaken by Jason Wallet once again. Only lost 3 cars so far. Brandon Fick, Brenton Foster, and Lyndon Swaby. 25 drivers are still out and rolling. But look at Bennett. Lost some time last time by. I wonder if it was some traffic or what happened there.
That was the draft that Justin Martin was able to get off of Brian Barnes. So Barnes is now attached to the back of Morton. But I will say this, Brian Bennett, over the course of that last lap, yeah, look at that. Almost a second taken off of Justin Morton's time. So he is definitely within shouting distance. He is only 3 seconds back with about 4 to go, based upon our timing and scoring sheets. So he might be able to get to the back of Morton, but can he pass it? Oh,
Again.
Not like that. Not like that. Oh my goodness! Brian Bennett clipped a little bit of grass going through the kink and managed to save it, but that's lost him about half a second.
He needs every inch here. Yeah, that may have just cost him that second place potentially, if he does have the pace to keep running him down by about a second a lap. And look at the traffic also not playing nice right there. That was Jimbo Pfeiffer who cut through there. Pfeiffer's trying to get away from Kuhn. That is for position, so Jimbo had good reason to be to take that apex away, because he's in his own little battle here.
Yes, he is. He tries to close and keep off Newton there. So I understand exactly why Jim is to run that line, but it is not going to help out Brian Bennett at all. As you said there, Joe, 6 minutes and 50 seconds left to go. We continue to keep our eyes here on Pfeiffer, working his way by a little bit more lap traffic. That's Justin Morton that he was able to just pilot around.
So up to 4 seconds now. Bennett, for a while, a serious threat, but starting to slip away. Could the traffic maybe swing back in his favor? Could it hold up Justin Morton here in a bit? Morton was just overtaken by Nick Kuhn and Jimbo Pfeiffer on the oval, so that actually worked out well for Justin Morton in that number 9. Let's see who else is coming up behind them in terms of lap traffic. They've got William Fletcher and Lynn Kinchlow here, so that could play a part.
Yeah, Brian Bennett really got just unfortunately caught out by the traffic, lost all that time that he had gained the previous lap. Now back out to about 4 seconds between himself and Morton. Here comes Fletcher and Kinchlow. They're only separated by a second themselves. They do not want to give up any time, so expect them to be cutting through this group pretty quickly.
But they did not hold up Bennett. They're going to wait until the oval here to overtake him. So this will work out well for the 71. Now it's going to be a question of when they catch that 9 car.
Yes, it is. So let's see how that plays itself out. The gap expanding a little bit more on that last lap, as you saw on your screen. Trying to be able to go here. Morton leading ahead, 3.2 seconds the gap right now. Here comes the more of that lap traffic. As you said, Joe, here they go.
Starting to catch up to him as Fletcher sees him up ahead, but he's going to get him on the banking. And then Lynn Kinchlow coming up. Lynn needs to get him before they hit the infield, at least if you're a Justin Morton fan here and don't want Bennett to catch him. It's down to 3 seconds now. Does look like he's going to go by at a good time.
And Bennett's got the draft from Barnes. So as long as Barnes doesn't hold him up through the infield, Bennett, okay, so Barnes moves over and lets Bennett go. So that gained Bennett about a second. But is it enough? I don't think it's going to be enough. He's only got about 2 laps left. He's trying everything, but I just think it's a little bit too late.
Are we sure that they only have 2, though? Because, okay, so we're actually less than 4.5 left. So that is 3 laps or somewhere around there. Yeah.
I just don't think he's close. I mean, man, it would be a heroic effort from Bennett to get to the back of Morton. Let's see whether he could do it.
And Christian Challenger just coming to the line now. So, yeah, this should be 3 laps to go this time by for Christian Challenger. He is just about at that 1 minute mark over Travis Warling. So that's 2/3 of a lap that he has put over his nearest rival.
Absolutely remarkable, Joe. I don't know how he does it. Christian Challenger seems to impress us more and more every single time that he gets out onto the track. It is yet another impressive feat here from Christian. One of these days he's going to stop surprising us, but it's not today.
Well, Justin Morton still at about 2.5 seconds. Bennett has caught some more time this lap. He's reeling him in. Are either of them tight on fuel as well? We have to wonder, did they cut it a little close maybe? Because that's the other thing that we haven't taken into account. Yes, they were within the window, but did they put enough in?
It looks like Brian Bennett definitely did. He has a 43-second stop, so that's a full tank of fuel. Justin Morton short fueled at 38.6. We know that he's cut it short a couple of times, and looks like we have a car that's stopped. Jason Wallet is in the middle of the grass, in the middle of the southern horseshoe.
Yeah, self-spin for him, unfortunately, the 114. I don't think going to lose position. He'll get going before William Fletcher is able to catch up, so he'll stay in 9th spot.
And there you have the pit comparison on your screen, Joe. I think you're right. What Adam was saying earlier about Bennett, that he is going to be able to make it there on fuel. Morton may be a little bit closer, but I think at this point he should be relatively okay, but the gap coming down to about 2 seconds.
Oh, my goodness. It's getting uncomfortable now if you're Justin Morton, you can see in the mirrors as that car gets bigger and bigger. It might not have the headlights, but it is visible. The 71 is making a race out of this. Justin Morton has already fallen back to about 10 seconds behind Dowd.
Got to go to P10 in the GTPs, Joe. Lynn Kinchell's right on the back of William Fletcher, who got held up by Jeff Schmeier.
He's going to be able to go to the high side. This is coming around NASCAR 3 and 4 onto the tri-oval for them. It's going to be wheel to wheel in a game of chicken on the brakes between the pair of them. Who is going to be later as they come down to the braking for turn 1. Inside advantage for Fletcher and a nose ahead. Can he get it woed up? He goes a little hot into the turn. Kinchlow does too. Neither is going to be able to make the pass, so Fletcher stays ahead.
Yes, he does, but here's the dive down into the International Horseshoe. Looks like Fletcher's still going to be able to hold off any rebuff there from Lynn Kinchlow as they work their way now down through the kink. Kinchlow running out of time here to try to make this move.
Speaking of running out of time, Challoner's getting ready to take the white flag, and Morton has only 1.3 seconds. Bennett is going to start feeling some of the effects of the draft now.
He's going to catch right up to the back of him. They still have 2 laps. They still have probably, 2 laps. So this is the penultimate lap for them, most likely, because I don't think Christian's going to catch them by the time he comes around to take the checkered flag. White flag will be next time.
He will certainly not catch them. White flag is out for Christian Challoner right now. There he is on your screen. He has got a huge margin, so this is going to be a victory lap for him. Here is Lynn Kinchlow still fighting with William Fletcher as well. 2 tenths between them as they bound over the curbs.
Here he comes, looking to the outside, trying to carry that momentum higher up on the banking. Let's see if Kinchlow's got this. This is neck and neck. Almost contact there between the two.
So as they come around, once again, it's going to be a battle of the late breakers. Fletcher won that last time with the same advantage, the inside and the nose ahead, but no, it looks like Kinchlow learned a little something that time as he sends it as deep as he can go. White flag is now out for Morton, and Bennett will be here in a second as we ride on board with Bennett. It's now down to 0.3 of a second.
Absolutely. Bennett's in a good position to make the pass here, but he's going to back off. He wants to save it until the last lap because he knows if he passes Morton now, Morton will pass him back on the final lap.
And Challoner is not close enough to overtake him. He just came out of the Le Mans chicane. Christian Challoner, having already taken the championship, is going to add to his impressive list of victories. Already the winningest driver in the majors history, the most championships, and he's going to add another classic Daytona 2.4 to his belts.
Impressive stuff yet again from Christian Challoner. We cannot stop singing that man's praises. It is absolutely remarkable. Here comes the battle, though, between Kinchlow and Fletcher. It looks like Kinchlow is going to be a little bit too far back here at this point unless he gets a mega run.
Too much of a run. He loses it, and around it goes. He's going to catch it before it hits the wall, but here comes the battle between Morton and Bennett. Dowd, don't forget, is up ahead, but he's got some ways to go before he gets to the line. Is this where Bennett makes the move, or does he wait until after the bus stop?
Brian Bennett's going to try and do this after the bus stop. He's going to try and get as close as possible to Justin Morton. How slow is Justin going to go try and let Morton go by? He's slowing down. Brian Bennett's backing off as well.
Oh, it's a game of after you here, but I don't think it's going to work on Bennett. He's going to be able to get that slipstream, but ahead of them both, Nathan Dowd takes a maiden win here in the GTO class for the penultimate round of the majors.
A great victory there from Dowd, but we've got to be able to jump back here to P2 because here it comes to the line, Joe.
Oh, so close for Justin Morton, but he's not going to be able to take second as Bennett beats him to the line, running him down at the very end. Great podium there. Unbelievable stuff between them. That's actually going to wrap us up here as we watch Challoner celebrate his victory with his Mega Racing teammate. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway, the penultimate round of the majors for the classic Daytona 2.4. Wound up giving another victory to Christian Challenger. Only he and Travis Warling completed every lap of the race for this one, as Warling finished second. Vincent Laherbier wound up in third, a lap down, but still on the podium. Justin Kirby was in fourth, and then you've got Jimbo Pfeiffer, who finished in fifth. After that, Nick Kuhn was P6 and Daniel Johnson was seventh. Brent Kirby finished P8, followed by Jason Wallet in ninth. William Fletcher had a heck of a battle there at the end and got a 10th place out of it. Lynn Kinchlow really sent it, quite literally, and then had to settle for 11th because he spun out. Rob Powers was the last of the finishers in the prototypes. Swaby and Fick, unfortunately, were DNFs, Adam.
Yeah, and then Dowd came home with the victory on strategy alone, saving fuel multiple times over the course of this race to get a couple of extra laps over Brian Bennett and Justin Morton. Bennett passing Morton by just a hood's length at the final stretch of the race, able to catch up a 6-second deficit to pass Morton for that second position. Justin Morton coming home in third after falling off the back of Dowd after the final pit stops. Tom Abromaitis was not able to keep up with the top trio over the course of the race. That puts him down in fourth position, still well clear of Ozzie Milwain, who was running by himself most of the race and had to take quite a bit of fuel. Jeff Schmeier comes home in the sixth position ahead of Joey Haynes. And Brian Barnes coming in behind Joey Haynes in the eighth position, with Wayne Hutchison in ninth and Brian McGreevy in 10th. Ray Partridge finishes in 11th for the GTOs, with Brian Halleck in 12th. Ryan Steele, another lap down, in the 13th position. And then we got our two DNFs for the GTOs, Brenton Foster and Andrew Waring. Quite early DNF, unfortunately.
Yeah, sad to see for the pair of them, but Christian Challenger is ready to chat with us here. And Christian, congratulations on another win to add to the tally, but it looked like you didn't have too many people to fight for the majority of the race.
Yeah, so I would agree with that, but I think it ended up looking kind of, easier than it really was. So the battle I had with Travis, that could have gotten pretty close, I think. We don't really know how it would have worked out with the last pit stop and whatnot. He seemed to actually be gaining on me in every kind of prior stop. It was just when he obviously had that mistake that really cost him, and from that point onwards, it was fairly simple. But up until that happened, no, it really wasn't. I think him and I were actually very, very close on pace. The very beginning of the race, I was a little bit able to fire off better than he was at the very beginning, so I got that little tiny gap, and then it just seemed I was more aggressive through traffic, and I got about 9 seconds that first stint, and that gave me a nice buffer, but it wasn't straightforward. I was kind of looking at his times, and we were pretty even the entire way up until he had his mistake. So yeah, it could have been really close. It certainly wasn't just cruising around taking it easy up until that happened, though. I was definitely pushing the entire time.
Now, did I hear correctly on the radio after the race, were you running without the virtual mirror in this car? Because I don't think most people understand just how difficult that is to do.
Yeah, so kind of maybe about two months ago now, built myself a new PC and everything, and I was actually just kind of cranking up graphics because that's fun to do, to see what you can actually get away with. And I've never ran the mirrors before, and it's something that's come up a couple of times in car dev, where because I've only been running the virtual mirrors and not the real mirrors, I haven't noticed minor bugs and things with the mirrors. So since I was like, well, it kind of runs well, I figured I'd just start trying to run without the virtual entirely, and just running with the the actual real mirrors on the car. And it is a pretty different experience, that's for sure. But in this car, it's particularly bad. I feel like the mirrors are there because there was a technical requirement to have mirrors, because you can't see anything. Literally, the A pillars cross over both mirrors like dead center, so I can see about 2 inches of the far right edge of the right side mirror, and less than an inch of the left side mirror. The left one's totally useless. The right, I don't know, maybe you can see something out of it, but yeah, it's totally different. I I actually think that it's not so much of a deal here, and you've always got the spotter and whatnot, but where it really is different, and I'd actually like to be able to do this as an option in sim to force the virtual mirror off is for dirt racing, because that changes that completely. Not being able to see what lines people are running behind you and everything, and just putting a lot more onus on the guys behind to make a pass and just have more awareness. It's really fun for that. So would kind of like an option to have a super hardcore mode where you just force everything off. I think it'd be really cool. I think there'd be a couple of people who, well, when I say a couple of people, there probably really is only a couple of people who would like that, but for those guys who do, like, yeah, I think it would be fun.
For what it's worth, I have seen a number of dirt guys that insist that they want it that real. But regardless, who helped put you in victory lane once again today?
I would actually have to say it was our previous European race winner and the rest of the satellite team, because Alex Gall on satellite has raced this car a bunch, as has Syandra, and then I really don't know anything about it. I think it's a cool thing, but I've never really raced it myself. I've never really driven it aside from when it was originally released. So I just kind of I lent on those guys, asked them kind of what the normal sort of deal with when you were racing the car was, like what do you got to look out for, and they did help me out with setup. I've got no qualms in accepting that, and yeah, I kind of did just get in and drive. Last night I was a bit frustrated for qualifying because I felt like I had a direction, and the direction was good. It did have raw pace available there, but it was just so hard to hold on to. And then when I ran my lap, it was it was good enough for pole, but it wasn't as good as I've been running in practice, and I was just a bit frustrated. So today I kind of went back to what they'd given me to play with, and I applied a couple of things I'd kind of figured out myself, and yeah, it was just really hooked up. I didn't have massive straight line pace, but I had a ton of confidence through the bus stop, and yeah, so big thanks to those guys. Obviously, big shout out to Dallas for winning that race earlier today as well as all the Team Mega guys. I know Brent had an issue today that kind of really sucked. His race got off to a bad start to begin with, and then he had a pretty interesting issue halfway through where he asked crew chief how much fuel he had, and all his audio shut off. So that was unfortunate for him, because I know he was looking forward to driving the car. And obviously Tom had a pretty quiet race as well, and we haven't had our other two guys for a couple of rounds. Obviously Brian's been pretty busy with real life, and Nick's been busy with the Coke series. So big shout out to those guys. It was really cool to. I think we've now wrapped up the team championship, and that was really my primary goal for this season. And it was obviously great to pick up another championship for a driver's perspective, but I was really going for getting the team championship, and mainly just trying to pick up as many top fives as I could points wise. And it hurt me, I think, because I didn't go for as many race wins, but it was the goal was a team championship, so I was really happy that we were able to pick that up, especially in the first attempt.
That was Christian Challoner, your winner here today in the GTPs. We also have the winner in the GTOs. Adam has caught up with Nathan Dowd.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great race for Nathan today. Nathan, a fantastic race for you, beating Justin Morton and Brian Bennett on strategy. My goodness, you guys were saving a lot of fuel in those trains today. Talk to me about how you did it.
Yeah, it was once I realized I didn't really have any chance of breaking away from those guys early on. I got close there once, but figured that was my best chance, was to just sit behind them and save as much as I could, and managed to get an extra lap there on the first stint, and that seemed to make most of the difference for me there.
Absolutely. Now, this was a multi-class race, so there was the faster class of the GTPs streaking by. How did the traffic feel for you today? Because that tends to be a point of contention with these cars.
It was okay. I'm compared to doing IMSA officials and stuff. Everyone was very respectful and patient, and there's just a couple, hairy moments, but that's normal for this stuff. So all in all, it's very good.
And then how is it that you were able to save that fuel over the course of the races? Because, tucking in behind those lines, I mean, you were leading the lines sometimes, but Justin Martin was also trying to save fuel and came up 2 laps short overall.
I think it was really getting that extra lap on that first stint really helped me there, and then I just kind of had to maintain and match them the rest of the race, and having that extra lap in hand at a bigger track like this, that gives me a lot of time there in that last stop. So I was just sitting behind them, lifting into the turn 1 and into the bus stop. The draft in these cars are super strong, so I knew I could just lift and let them pull out a bit, and I'd catch right back up.
Well, Nathan, congratulations on the win today. Is there anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, just the guys at the majors for putting this series on. They do a great job. This is my first time running with these guys, and very impressed by all the coordination that the steward team does, each round to put all the stuff on, considering the variety of events and different formats, and it's a lot of fun. Good group of guys to race with.
Well, we enjoy having you as well, Nathan. Congrats on the win, and we'll talk to you hopefully next round.
Thank you.
That was Nathan Dowd, who won the GTO class, and DJ is now going to catch up with Brian Bennett, who came home in second in the GTOs.
I have indeed. And Brian, I've got to start with you at the end of that race. A chase down with Justin Morton to the line. What was going through your head on those last couple of laps?
Just trying not to overcook any entries, and then hoping to get some draft, because it's strong for sure. And I was watching him get draft and hoping those guys would just get out of the way and then help me out.
Do you think the fuel strategy helped you at all a little bit? Coming in a little bit early, it looks like you were able to get a little bit more fuel than Justin. Do you think that was at play at all in those final couple of laps?
No, I pitted because I had not enough fuel left to finish another lap. I was trying to coast into the corners, and when after it settled down after the first 10 or so laps, I was doing some lifting and coasting, but those guys were just milking it behind me, and I knew I'd be in trouble. So I was actually surprised when I was in the lead after the first pit cycle. But yeah, in the end, I knew I had some troubles.
Well, looking ahead, we keep things in the Florida hemisphere and head to Homestead next. How do you like your chances with that? How do you think that's going to go?
Oh, I don't know. I just moved to Florida, actually. It's kind of why I've been away for a while. I retired and moved cross country and just been too busy for iRacing. But me and ovals, well, it's a crapshoot.
Well, we wish you luck in the crapshoot nonetheless, but my friend, anybody you'd like to thank for this second place finish here today?
Well, a lot of this goes here. I was running the Alliance paint job old school, and I started off with the same setup I used 5 or 6 years ago when we raced this exact combo and track. And I tweaked it some, but just I guess Jason Fleischley and all the old school Alliance guys, Lionel, everybody else, Matt, Thunhorst, all the guys from 4 or 5 years ago when we built this set out.
Well, fantastic. That was Brian Bennett, your second place finisher there in the GTO class. And now, Joe, I believe you have caught up with third place in the GTO's Justin Morton.
Yep, unfortunately, that maiden win is still going to have to wait a little longer, it seems. Justin, we thought that maybe this was going to be a great shot considering your experience in these cars. Do you feel like that gave you a pretty good edge, you being a regular in the Camel for some time?
Yeah, I feel like it gave me some edge. I really do love driving these cars, just the time doesn't work out so well for me in the broadcast for the Camel stuff, but yeah, I don't know. I didn't miss a shift this race, so I'm pretty happy with that. Overall, I'm just happy with how the race turned out, actually.
I mean, that right there is an accomplishment in itself, but it came down right to the finish. I'm sure you could see Brian coming. Were you having to save fuel, or was he just doing that on raw pace, or what allowed him to catch you?
Yeah, he was just doing that on raw pace. I couldn't find my pace that I had in practice. I knew I had to stay in Nathan's draft there to really challenge him once he got out of the draft, and just watch him pull away. I kind of knew where I was going to stand, and watching Brian slowly gain on me and get the draft on the white flag. I was like, oh boy, here we go.
Well, and the results were, I guess, a little predictable in the end in that sense, but it's still a podium. Is there anybody you'd like to thank that helped you spray the champagne here today?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Majors Garage for sponsoring us, PC Racer, Revered Co. Dino Vila for working on our paint this for this round. Great teammate, great guy. Nathan, Brian, everybody else who was up there at the start of the race, putting on an awesome show and battle right there. That was great. All the GTP drivers who were being very nice all race. Didn't really have much complaints with them. They're pretty cordial the entire time. The whole Forge team, all the admins and competition committee that runs Majors, and thank you guys for doing the broadcast, and you do a great job.
Well, thank you very much. That was Justin Morton, third in the GTO class this evening. That's going to wrap us up. And wow, great escape there on the replay that we just saw that Justin managed to pull off. Big thank you, of course, again to the Majors for the charity that they are involved with, Forever Footprints, for this race. And we've got a link in the description below if you want to see what you can do to get involved with them. And also, of course, their sponsor, the Majors Garage, also have a link down there, as well as a special discount code, Majors GSRC, that you can use to get 10% off on that. Thanks to the team today, DJ, Adam, Andrew, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. We've got listed and linked below as well. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. The next race, as we mentioned, is going to be Homestead and the next gen cars to wrap things up. That'll be Sunday, November 6th at 8 p.m. Eastern. But be sure to check out our other broadcasts that we'll have listed on the screen. And until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.